Welcome to Dearly Debated Deep Dives, the 4D podcast. Coming in, if I can find the buttons. There it is. Coming in the blue corner. I realize I've colored these corners, but
there's not any real colors.
But anyways, in the blue corner, it's Greg. He was born a street rat. He will die a street rat, and only his fleas will mourn him. Prince.
Hit me with the air horn at least. There we go. Do the man some justice.
In the red corner, for the first time, our special guest. It's Jay, Diamond in the Rough, Natalie. Oh, get out of control here.
Scratch.
Yeah. And joining you from the producer seats, on a scale of 1 to 10, you are an 11. It's your boy, Nathanael Levinson.
That was pretty good. It was way more on point than our last intros.
That was exciting.
Yeah,
hey, did I do our last intros? I don't want to.
Lots of times our intros, at least when I do it, they just end up being mean. It's not because I'm like a mean-spirited person.
First place your head goes.
No, it's not that at all. It's that I want to say something funny about like you guys, and then it always just comes out sounding mean. It's always just like, and this guy who everybody hates, and then you guys are just like, Greg, what are you doing back there?
I'm gonna make a funny joke.
It's one of those.
Everyone hates you. Ha 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 ha.
Those anxiety stabs. Got to make sure the person really likes you. Let's see if any like frustration comes out.
But that was actually on theme. That was good. So everybody home, thank you for watching. If you are tuning in on YouTube and you're like, hey, I'd like to talk to these people, and you're wondering why you can't chat, hit that subscribe button. Then you can join in the chat. We'd like to hear from you, hear what your thoughts are.
Marco's already in the chat.
Our current discussion and our current discussion to bring you up to date. We're talking about Alladin today.
Yeah, baby.
That's right. And we're continuing our series. So for those that are just tuning in for the first time, we have been doing Disney originals and then their live action remakes.
Yeah.
And we talk about, what we thought about the two of them. And
here's, our usual opinion on the remakes is
usually, but we might have some shockers today. Who knows?
I might have a Liam style hot take.
So for the people in the audience that are like, why does Liam look way better today? That is because Liam is in fact our good friend Jay Natalie, and I'm super excited to have you on, man.
I'm just beyond happy to be around people that I can speak with, like.
Where have you been?
On a level that's like enjoyable. It's not formality. Or
Jay lives in a box, ladies, without people.
I don't speak to people that do creative work. You know?
But you do.
Oh wait. Are we doing creative work?
Yeah.
This is. We're doing creative work.
Because Greg told us that he was the creative one. Liam and I were just eye candy, I guess.
I did have that take.
Creative's just the nicest way I'll put it.
It's like, hey, that was a time that I wasn't being mean and I was taken wildly out of context, and they won't let me live it down. That at one point I said I pretty much just said what you said, but since they were the only other two people in here, they devoured me for it. Anyways, so you let's let the people get to know you a little bit before we jump into our topic today. You do work in a creative field, so tell everybody what. And there's a pretty interesting fact about the things that you do that relates to what we're talking about today. So why don't you tell people what it is you do, and then we can kind of get into how it connects to what we're talking about today.
So I do a fun thing and I do a boring thing.
Oh man, hit us with both.
Yeah, the fun part is the fact that when you are listening to the most boring daytime television, you're sick. You pop on MTV, you need like total brain trash. Odds are some of my music's on that trash television. So yeah, currently I'm working on some MTV shows, the families of the mafia and the stories that they tell. It's like total self-absorbed garbage. Like it's just riffing on horrible, tragic personal stories, and then it's just like smooth jazz. And
like, Jay, how does this make you feel? And you're like, do.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I need to riff some Seinfeld into there.
So then anyway, as I was saying, I threw him some concrete shoes and I plucked his eyes out. Boom.
Oh yeah, just need some slap bass coming in. The other fun stuff is I do music for video games. I've worked with a lot of different companies, mostly consultant work at first that turned into contract work. And I think the most fun thing that I do personally, like on my level, what I love most is I get to do sound engineering for churches. I come in, I look at everything they do for live music, and I get to kind of tell them where I think they can expand and all that. I love doing that. It's so much fun. And then I do it for the church we all attend.
Yeah.
The boring stuff that I do, this is the really interesting thing. We'll have a writer's room of like 18 musicians and sound engineers. And this is what happened in relation to Alladin, which I was working at Sonic Culture Media, formerly Sonic Culture Music. Big difference.
Well, see, if you're media, you don't just have, even if you only make music, you can be like, no, but we're media. Even if we technically only make music.
The culture wasn't as Sonic in the media place as it was. Clearly, that was the problem.
Yeah, they had to make the jump.
Yeah.
The frivolous jump. But there's about 18 of us that will all report to one main producer. And he gets all these huge jobs because he makes all the connections. And we are his like support team. And we got sent a bunch of the Disney live actions. And at the time, I was sent a bunch of material for Lady on the Tramp. And then halfway through getting my shot at like working on it and, you know, touching a lot of the sound engineering at the time, we were at the later stages of that when I got pulled away for horror music and specifically Pet Sematary at the time.
Oh, wow.
And while I was getting the rounds on like my opportunities to shoot my shot with the director there, all the guys still working on all of the Disney remakes were emailing me all of this music and things until finally they started sending me like the main tracks. And I was like, you guys are working on Alladin. And I got to like, I was like, okay. And I heard Will Smith's voice and I was so confused. And so
Hold on.
I was just guessing like, he's got to be Genie. Like there's no way.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, I was there for the process and I didn't hear it past once anything came out. Once they were starting to put out commercials, they were like, okay, this stays in-house.
Yeah.
We're finishing it. And so, yeah, I do a lot of audio engineering consulting. And so I get to do the overview work on music and tell people why something on like a moral and emotional level in this job won't work. And I am ruthless with it. So I am that with my takes as well. Once we get into it, I feel like I have a talent for explaining the technical parts of music in a digestible way. I would like to say that because I talk to some really prophetically stupid people that work in film that have they don't even know what a microphone is, I swear. But we have to explain to them what we're doing so that way they don't think their money's just going into some guy holding a microphone.
So what you're saying is that like we here will be able to understand you.
Absolutely.
is the goal.
Yeah.
Is just what we're hoping for.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. So
Well, then I have a question.
Yeah.
Now, you're a huge weeb, which we all know.
Oh, yeah. It's come down in recent years. I'm out of touch with anime in like modern area, but 90s and early 2000s anime? Woo. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you haven't watched one of the more recent episodes of One Piece?
No.
When they play the Drums of Liberation?
No.
Well, then I was going to ask you why it makes me cry every time, but...
Oh, no. I mean, give me some detail. I'm sure I could help.
Anyway,
it's just
sidetracking from. I don't think our audience knows what weebs are. You guys got to bring them up to speed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, seriously? That's a pretty common term.
I know the technical definition of weeb.
What?
Weeaboo?
Hit it.
Yeah, so the technical definition of a weeb is someone within another culture that wants to identify as a part of Japanese culture, disassociating themselves from the ones around them in order to call themselves technically a part of that culture. And so it's like they are trying to quite literally say, no, I am like considered on some level Japanese.
I'm part Japanese because I like their cartoons.
Would that make you transnational? Identifying as Japanese?
Okay.
And we just got canceled. Sorry, guys. Shut it down.
So transitioning more towards a cartoon that is less Japanese and more, what would you call Aladdin? What would you say his background is? I
would say riff raff. Street rats.
Canceled.
I don't.
You can't say that about these people.
Wait, sorry.
Anyways, okay, so we're talking about Aladdin today. Most of you guys know the story. You know the way we do it. I'm going to give a brief little synopsis. I'll kind of give you my thoughts. We'll get Jay's thoughts on the original, Nathaniel's thoughts on the original, and then we'll talk about how bad the music was in the remake, and we'll let Jay defend himself.
Oh yeah.
Explain this.
Oh, there's like really specific notes too. It's not some like broad general sweep.
I can pull up. I mean, we can't play long clips of it, but I can pull up little clips of it.
Sure.
Anyways, all right. So Aladdin. So we all watched both Aladdins, and to bring you up to speed, the story of Aladdin goes as follows. It's told through the lens, I guess, technically of Genie. This is a portion I forgot because it starts off with the genie. He's walking, and then he ends up telling he's breaking the fourth wall. Yep. He's talking to the audience, and then he's like, "Oh, I've got something for sale. It's a lamp. Let me tell you a story about this lamp." And that's how the story starts. So the story is about Aladdin, go figure, and he is stealing to stay alive is kind of his MO. Like, he steals what he can't afford, but that's everything. He only steals to eat. He's got to eat to live. That's kind of his motto. So he's going around as kind of like the humble thief. He's stealing in some of these early scenes. You see him giving some of what he stole to starving kids, and so you establish that he's kind of a nice guy. He's fun, but he doesn't have a whole lot, and he's really idolizing the castle that he lives near, which is the Palace of Agrabah, which is where he lives, and this is where you find out Princess Jasmine lives. And Princess Jasmine is the princess, the daughter of the Sultan, and her, I guess, role in the animated version is it's a little unclear, but she's like, she needs to get married for an unspecified reason, and she's like not.
They specified the reason. They said it's the law. What they didn't specify was, okay, so what happens if you don't get married?
Right.
Unclear.
That was the big question for me. I was like, oh, what? Like, what's the because. Okay, well, I'll get through the synopsis before I get to my takes. But anyways, so she's a little rebellious. She doesn't like that, so she wants to get out into the city. She wants less restraints, so she, kind of sneaks away. In her sneaking away, realizes that the town is kind of rough. She almost gets her hand chopped off, and Aladdin meets her, saves her. They have a really good little time, but then the baddies break in and they capture her to bring her back. But they also capture Aladdin because the big bad, who is Jafar, he has a secret mission to get the lamp, which grants you 3 wishes. And he has to find the diamond in the rough, who they establish is Aladdin. So he's out there trying to find Aladdin. So he gets Aladdin, brings him in, and he sends him into this cave to retrieve the lamp for him.
A quite wondrous one.
Yes, a wondrous. That's a great point, Jay. So he goes into the Cave of Wonders, where he meets the magic carpet, and him and his little monkey Abu. They find the lamp. Abu touches the treasure he shouldn't touch. It starts to explode. They make it out of there, and then Jafar kind of like sets them up, tries to kill them. They fall back into the cave before it collapses.
Made for a great Disney ride.
Oh, yeah, that was a great ride. You remember that? So they're stuck in the cave. They got the lamp. They start to grant these wishes. The genie's hilarious. It's Robin Williams. He starts granting wishes. It's really charming. He gets turned into a prince because now he's in love with Jasmine. And so he gets his wish to be a prince. He gets presented in front of Jasmine again. She starts to fall in love with him. Things are going great until Jafar gets the lamp back.
Before that point, one of the greatest musical numbers of all time. Then that happens.
Yes.
Continue.
Actually, a couple of the greatest music. I would venture to say.
But if I'm
both
picking
of the
one of the
Genie
greatest,
songs,
those are fantastic.
Yeah, both of the Genie songs.
But okay, but which one do we always sing at karaoke?
You never had. Is it never had a friend
Are
like
you
me?
kidding me, Greg?
No, I'm
every
what the
time
name
we
of the
do
song.
karaoke, you and me do a whole new world.
Okay, well, this is true. Okay,
And
I didn't
you
even
always
think
make me
about
play
that.
Jasmine for some reason.
Well, you can hit the high notes.
It's true.
Anyways,
solid.
so Jafar gets the lamp back. He reveals to Jasmine that Aladdin was lying, that he's not really a prince. There's some oh no moments. He turns
That's
himself.
putting it mildly. Oh no.
He turns himself into a bigger bad, and he is eventually stopped because he's turned into a genie. And then they rub that lamp, and he goes back into his little lamp, and he's stuck there. And he gets flicked off into the Cave of Wonders.
Genie's like, take this, Jafar. It's a kid's movie.
He gets flipped off multiple times. Gets put in the Cave of Wonders. Aladdin and Jasmine are allowed to be married because Sultan's like, hey, you know what? That law, not that big of a deal. And so they get married. And
At that point, it's a little like, you could have resolved literally everything if you're just like, well, I'm the Sultan, I can just change the rules. But okay.
Yeah.
And with Aladdin's last wish, he frees the genie, and it's kind of like a heartwarming moment. So that is the synopsis of Aladdin. So, What are our thoughts? So, Nathaniel, why don't you start off for us? Tell us what you thought about the original Aladdin. So we haven't gotten to we're going to get into the live action later, but
Yeah.
you watched the original. We actually watched it together. What are your thoughts? Tell me about it.
It's one of my top 5.
Yeah.
I love it. I
For
think
sure.
it's just a fantastic movie. It's always fun to watch. Now, Robin Williams absolutely carries
Yeah.
the majority of the movie.
Yeah. I would venture to say, like, if he wasn't in it, it'd be a very mid movie. Like, it'd be solid.
But see, the thing is,
But-
we know what it's like if he's not in it, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But his just charisma as Genie is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I think all the characters. Okay, so one of the funny thing is one of the things you notice between the original and the live action is that the live action actually has way more people in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the original, you do see some of the people at like the coronation and during the street rat part, but then for the most of the movie,
in the palace, there's like nobody
there's
there.
nobody there. There's absolutely nobody there.
It's the Sultan
Jasmine,
in every
the
scene. It's like the Sultan and Jasmine chilling.
It's Jasmine,
You're
the
like,
Sultan, Jafar, Iago, Aladdin, and the Genie. So there's like 6 characters.
He's got like 3 henchmen.
Yeah,
that
he's
just
got-
rotate to be in every scene. It's the same
the
3.
guards that
Yeah.
work for Jafar. They
I was
show
going to
up.
say,
but-
all the guards are just with Jafar 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, they're constantly on detail for him for his nefarious schemes. He's never properly admitting to his position.
but I mean, it says other than the fact that the rule, it's very unclear why this rule exists or what will happen if it doesn't get. Like I'm convinced she gets sent to a nunnery, like she becomes a nun.
Oh, we're talking about like
Yeah,
what,
like what
the law.
happens? Like what happens if she doesn't get
that's
married?
what like. So okay, so she. This is kind of like setting up like her like if she had a character. She didn't really have a character arc. I mean, in these older
she
ones,
kind of does.
Well, in the original ones, I feel like in the original.
Okay,
all right.
So I think she does. Right, she's yearning to be free. It's not a big one, but it's there. It exists.
Sure.
She has
Yeah.
motives and goals, and then she's willing to do things to she's willing to make sacrifices to accomplish those goals.
and a desire that she feels like she is the one that understands her kingdom the most and can serve it the best.
That's a little bit more in the live action.
It's still stated in the original, talking about the absence of the mother.
Did they talk about the absence of the mother in the original?
It's one line. It's a single line.
Oh.
And it's
Wow.
not even
Well,
direct. It's passive.
The Liam Maxwell is now in chat and he says, "Just tuned in and everything Greg has said is wrong." He's not wrong. He's not. He's not far off base. He's not far.
We got him on.
Can you kick people from the chat? Is it
maybe.
possible? Is it possible to
mod
give a
this
bad
guy.
take from the chat because Liam's going to do it at some point?
Oh, I'll let you know. But yeah, so I love it. I love every part of it. Every song, just absolutely
Yeah.
phenomenal from the beginning. The Arabian Nights song I sang in Argentina while I was on a camel. And I'm pretty sure all the Argentines thought I was very drunk, even though I was stone cold sober. And I was with someone else, and I turned to them. I was like, "I apologize for what's about to happen, but I have to do this." And so I sang and it was like perfectly timed that I finished right as we came back around. It's like this zoo thing, and you can jump on a camel and ride it around in a circle. And it's just perfectly timed.
I think it's a good definition of you, though.
Yeah, it worked. But yeah, just it's great. There's so many memorable lines. Gilbert Gottfried as Iago is just like it's Wallace Shawn as Vizzini levels of genius voice casting.
It's like, as my thought is like, how do you get like, what made you think that a New York sounding Jewish guy would be a
Whoa, now.
perfect pair? I mean, he's just like, what you got? I mean, like, I don't even know how to define his accent, but like in a movie that's based in the Sahara, you're like, we need that guy to play a parrot, and somehow it's just perfect. How does that work? Tell us, Jay. You're the
How does
music
that work?
guy.
Oh, the biggest reason any voice casting happens like that is due to what's called like textural understanding of a character's voice. And sometimes it doesn't matter about an accent. It matters what range the accent goes to. And for a bird, you want someone that kind of has like a to their voice.
That's
They-
actually
right. It
true.
is very like parrot-like.
Yeah,
like
there's
that
screw
raspy
loose.
grating that you think of, and he's when Jafar like kicks him into the thing, and he comes out, he's like,
yeah.
"So how did it go?"
So how
The
did it
voice
go?
has to look like the character. That's
Yeah.
the biggest thing.
Yeah,
And the voice looks like him.
right.
If it was smooth, it's like, that's not a bird.
Yeah.
Well, that's like I feel like there was more effort put into that back in the day. Like when you were doing animated stuff, when you're like, hey, we're really going to care about casting. Like we're gonna get the people that need to, as opposed to
like getting oh my gosh, Darth
Yes.
Vader.
James
Earl Jones from
Jones.
Mufasa.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, who do we know that sounds like a king who can carry,
Yes.
whose voice carries that weight?
Yeah.
I feel like they did the same. And, Scar, Jeremy Irons sounds very sinister and conniving. So I feel like they, Renaissance Disney did a fantastic job picking voices that suited the characters and portrayed what the characters were like
Yeah.
before we actually saw them do anything.
right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I thought that I don't know who voiced Jafar.
That's what I was about to ask too.
Yeah, I don't know
loved-
who voiced him,
loved it.
but in contrast with the live action one, I felt more praise for the original because I'm like, man, he was sinister sounding, whereas the live action guy's like, how's it going? I am Jafar, and I'm like, you sound really pleasant, and I kind of want to give you a hug.
When we get to the live action, I'm going to go off about Jafar. I am personally offended.
I'm so ready for that.
But I mean, come on. There was at no point during the live action, I'm going to move away from my mic. At no point in the live action did Jafar go, "First bring me the lamp," and that's why it was terrible. Like, come on, man.
I think that's one of the. Well, okay, I'm going to save this take for the live action, but
Okay, yeah.
anyways,
but
okay,
let me
so
finish. Let
original-
me just wrap up. It's
okay.
absolutely fantastic from soup to nuts. I love every second of it. I can quote I could probably, if I started right now, I could probably go through the entire movie. I might mess up one or two lines, but I could probably go through the entire movie line by line. It's just such a good movie. Every song, every bit of it, great ending. Pretty standard Disney ending, happy ending.
Yeah.
The romantic couple, they get together. Everything's tied up in a nice, neat bow. It has sequels, which
Yes.
are not. I remember enjoying. They're not
I
bad.
remember seeing one,
Yep.
and I mean, by remember, I mean like I was a child, and so I have like bits and pieces in my memory. And there was a guy, and he had like a golden hand, and if he touched somebody with it, that thing.
Yeah, Midas
turned
touch.
to
That was
gold.
the third
Yeah.
one.
Okay, that's all.
That's
I
a real
remember
thing.
of the sequels.
Real thing. But I remember liking those. But
at least that wasn't a dream.
But yeah, Aladdin is one of my top 5 animated Disney movies of all time.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best. It's just everything about it is phenomenal. I can think of very little to criticize.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Jay. All right, so you didn't work on the original because you weren't born yet.
Believe it. Oh, I was.
Okay.
I was born yet. Born.
He might look young, but he's actually 75
Let's take an
years
audience
old.
poll on how old they think Jay is. Don't tell anybody
Oh,
yet.
dude, I look high school level. That's bad. We get stuck.
Well, let's get a poll going because I'm interested to see what the audience might think about Jamie, my friend Jay Nathanael here. So,
My wife and I get stopped at the mall, like making sure we're 18. When we got COVID vaccines, they were like, "Are you guys 18? Do you need a consent form?" I'm like, "Okay, all right. That's I'll take it as a compliment while I get it."
all right, so talk to us about the original one. Let's hear your thoughts.
I inadvertently have a very long relationship with Aladdin.
Okay.
It, completely not my fault, and I didn't want to. But every source of media that I possibly wanted to get into as a child was infected with Aladdin. And so it was the first VHS that my parents purchased. And
Really?
we watched Aladdin a lot. It just was on. Then I loved Lilo and Stitch, which
so
had the
good. That's in
commercial
my top
with
5 as well.
Aladdin. So I watched that on repeat. I recorded it on a VHS tape. Then Kingdom Hearts came out. I had the
Yes.
Aladdin level. I had the PC game for Aladdin. I had the Game Boy game for Aladdin. I had the PS2 game for. I don't know why Aladdin just
There was a
invaded my life.
PS2 Aladdin game.
Indeed,
No. Okay. Really brief sidebar. What do you do in the PlayStation 2 Aladdin game?
you do a lot of carpet flying.
That's what I pictured. I was like, is this
I
purely
played
a
like
carpet flying game?
I played the Super Nintendo one, which is pretty
Yes,
good.
yeah. I think it was actually just a port of that, if I'm not mistaken. But so I saw Aladdin so much growing up, and the biggest thing about Aladdin for me, from like stem to stern, was always I was just so infatuated with the animation. I think being younger, that's what drew me to the film, and then closer, I think I got to explore kind of like the diet of male emotional spectrum.
Yeah.
It threw mostly Jafar. I felt like I didn't understand what a toxic, negative person could be till I met Jafar. When
I had never met a snake human before.
yeah,
You'll see how snake-like I can be.
and
He really
so-
is just the worst.
Yeah.
Hate that guy.
And I think comparatively, any other film I'd seen at the time, any kind of media, Jafar stood out to me to be the most impressionable in terms of his not just like infatuation with power or like obsession with power, but he was like so ready to get it. He had so many plans. He knew who he hated, which is the weirdest thing to say. Knowing who you hate instead of just like emotionally reacting or being someone that has negative issues. Other people, Jafar had this, like, he could write out a list. Like, here's the people I hate.
Right.
Like, I couldn't do that. And so as the film progresses and it gets nuttier and nuttier, there's so many things that you just immediately start to accept as a part of reality with the film. I think this is Disney's biggest accomplishment with understanding power scaling. Like in terms of this can't fly off the rails, and so giving the genie, you know, actually having the restraints and what wishes could have. As a kid, it just clicked so quick.
Yeah.
Versus you had a billion questions as a kid when you saw Lilo and Stitch, when you saw the magicians and the witches in Cinderella. There's so many things about Disney film that felt so open-ended, but it was such a magical journey because it felt so grounded with the original. So I think the writer's room must have had someone that was purely on like the creative cocaine side. Like you just had to understand how far am I allowed to
development
go?
probably started sometime in the 80s. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Would not
we're
shock
hitting
me.
that stride.
A couple of provisos, a few
Quid pro quos.
And then to tie the whole message to selflessness was just so impactful, and I think genuinely shaped my perception of what Disney was at the time. Just that, like, I learned a really valuable thing from this that didn't feel corny. I felt the idea of, man, I want to be a guy that can get the princess because I don't feel like I am a prince. Like, I don't know. I don't think people talk about enough how much of a male role model Aladdin was. And we get so many princess movies, and I think seeing Aladdin's journey emotionally was really creative, but not in the way of like trying to get me to understand something where like you're a man, you have to think more about your actions. It's you got to think more about what you want and like what you're willing to do to get it. And so the original is rich with children's like storytelling that C.S. Lewis writes in his How to Be a Good Writer book. He talks about how children's tales are not something that are easy to write. They have to be just as elegant and just as amazing as like a book for an adult.
Yeah.
And anyone that says like, oh, this is for kids to enjoy, adults won't. If an adult won't enjoy it, it's not good.
Right.
Like if it's only that kids that enjoy it, you're not meriting anything. And as an adult, being able to go back, and this relates to a lot of Disney, going back as an adult and really still getting something out of it and rewatching it just like to prepare, I felt it like a little bit of an emotional pull. I'm a cry guy. Like I'll pull out the tears
Love
quick.
that.
The ending really hit me because I think more as an adult now how much I'll feel undeserving of like some friendships or like my relationship with my wife or like even sometimes like close employers I've worked with for years and years. The fact that they still value me somewhere in their lives so highly. Seeing Aladdin have to work through that really gets to me. So animation just out of this world. But to wrap all that up, to say the music as a kid felt so strange to me. I'd never heard these sounds. It was such I grew up in like the whitest white household possible.
Only Gregorian chants. Only Gregorian chants, only psalms.
A lot of Celtic.
Just river dancing.
Oh yeah. And hearing this music, I was just like, I didn't know my body could move this way. Like I'm excited. I'm sitting on the couch bopping up and down. And the biggest thing was that the voices were imperfect. No one felt like they were a professional singer on that soundtrack, other than I would say like, honestly, like every now and then the main Aladdin's voice actor, which I apologize, I don't know his name, he really hit some incredible notes.
Sure.
But there were so many imperfections in the voices listening back this time, which I will definitely get to when we get to the remake about how they butchered that. And I felt like I was hearing a character sing rather than a singer sing for a character.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a good point because I think that's also why A Whole New World is like record-breaking as far as karaoke plays go. Yeah. And the reason being is because it's not a super difficult song to play. I mean, there is a decent range there, but as it pertains to some of these other amazing, magnificent Disney songs, it's really not that spectacular. It's like you said. It's as if they just said to the actors, "Hey, I want you to sing this song." I mean, Robin Williams is singing most of them, which is like,
yes.
I mean, great for him. I'm sure he did a lot of practice and had to train himself a little bit. But if Robin Williams is singing the song, I mean, like they're not hiring anybody spectacular, but
pulling all the stops.
Oh yeah,
and he's letting every inflection that the character has developed just come out in the voice, and it makes it feel so much more emotionally connective with it. I mean, I think it's the same way, honestly. I think this is a crazy thing to relate it to, but Les Mis. I mean, like, the fact that there's so much spoken word within the music that's still being sung makes it 10 times more impactful. And I saw Les Mis, the Broadway, live in September, I think, of last year, and seeing the reactions for that versus other musicals that I'll watch, even like Fiddler on the Roof, which has a lot of that in it too.
Yeah.
You're getting such a different reaction out of your viewers.
yeah.
So the voice actor for Aladdin was Scott Wanger, Winger. Apparently, so he produced Gallivant. Do you know about Gallivant?
Yeah.
Gallivant. So I think I've talked to you about this, Greg. But Gallivant was this fantastic musical show about a guy named Gallivant. It was, fantasy show, very, very funny. In fact, the end of the first season is them singing how they're going to get canceled, and then the beginning of the second season was them singing, "I can't believe we didn't get canceled." it's very funny, very self-aware, very, very silly. But he apparently produced that. But
So the voice of Aladdin.
Voice of Aladdin. He was on an episode of Scrubs. A single episode of Scrubs.
Good for him.
I love Scrubs. But what was I going to say? Yes. So Margot says you look like 22 on a good day.
Solid. Yeah, that's way younger.
Oh man.
Is that younger or older than people usually assume?
That's older. I get 21 a lot.
All right. Well, how old are you actually?
26.
Okay. Well,
So you're Liam's age.
Yeah.
Liam, we have found your replacement. Get
He's
wrecked.
a better looking Liam.
I got the thick nose.
Better looking, more talented. I'm sorry, Liam. We love you. We're just messing with you because you're not here.
We miss you, Liam. Miss you a lot.
I'd share an ice cream cone with Liam.
I love that. We're gonna have you on in our third chair when Liam gets back.
I mean,
You're
when
gonna
we
meet
do Lady
Liam.
and the Tramp, we're gonna have you come in and explain yourself.
Do you guys know his wardrobe enough? Do you think we could guess what he's wearing? Get me to come in as a
Liam
doppelganger?
is 100% wearing shorts and an obscure T-shirt. It's either like a Boston Red Sox T-shirt, even though he's not from Boston, or it has like a random movie title on it, or just a sport or something.
Well, no, he
wearing-
was on a family
printed
reunion,
sports
right? So he's
wearing a frontward-facing cap.
He's wearing one of those,
Tonight though, he's
chitsy
just
family reunion
he's got like
things
a
where it's a
concert
picture of
he's
him
at
and
tonight.
Jakob hand in hand.
He's at a concert tonight. Anyways, so
Yeah. I'm curious about something then.
Yeah.
What's your personal relationship with Aladdin?
My-
Where did you find it? Was it at a theater? Was it at home?
yeah. Okay, so
Did you own the DVD
Yes,
soundtrack
so-
to your band growing up?
so I grew up with the VHS of Aladdin. I grew up with the, what do they call them, the Black Diamond Disney VHSs, where they all had that little diamond and like the character's face was in it, and it was in the big
what I got.
plasticky. Yeah, that's what I grew up with that one. Where at the beginning you had the little moment where you looked at all the voice actors and you had Robin Williams yelling in the studio, and I always thought that was funny. So I obviously have a
Very
super
good imitation, by the way, of what he
that's
does.
exactly what he was doing in the one clip that he was doing. So I mean, as much as you can grow up on Aladdin, I grew up on Aladdin. It's always been one of my favorites. I was really excited to watch it, and I was curious because I think you made a good point in that really good. Really like and it shouldn't even be really good. If a story is made for a child, there should be a deeper theme there that as you grow, you can also start to understand and can make more sense to you.
Different shades come out as you get older.
Right.
Different angles.
And I talked about this, I think in the last, not in the last one we talked about Oppenheimer, but in the Peter Pan one where I kind of mentioned how like when you go back and you watch these Disney stories or these movies, you kind of get that. You can kind of see like the childish theme of like, hey, here's the very basic thing that you're going to get as a kid. Like it's going to make a lot of sense to you. And here is this like really impressive, deeper theme that kind of goes through the whole movie. And that's usually the thing that's missing in the live action remake is you're like, oh, you guys totally missed the whole point of this.
Missing in the live
You
action
totally
remake.
missed the whole point of this whole movie. Like you kept the childish themes and you blew that out of proportion. You shoved steroids into it, but then now there's no deeper, amazing message. But no, so I really love Aladdin. As you mentioned, it's one of these Disney originals that is about a guy, right? So I mentioned how in the Beauty and the Beast episode that I think Beauty and the Beast is about the Beast.
Yes.
And I think
At
Aladdin,
least, I mean, from the title, it's at least 50% about him.
But I think in context, when you think about these Disney movies, you think, oh, the Disney princesses. Like, this is about Jasmine, that one's about Belle, that one's about Ariel. And when in reality...
Which that's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
I'm not riffing on the fact that things are princess-driven. I'm so happy there is material like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just think that this one's unique in that this one's just called Aladdin. And it's really primarily about Aladdin. And I think the capacity for these original Disney movies, and something that I caught on more so as I watched it now, is that they typically... I know Nathanael said that other characters have an arc. And in my opinion, there's really only one character arc that takes place, and that's Aladdin. And you have the main antagonist, which is Jafar. He's the main bad guy. He's kind of just a bad guy. And you can obviously do a good job and a bad job at doing that.
Which is really cool that he's related, because the worst people in your life, you know them. They're not strangers that come to hurt you. I think that's something really cool about this, is like it's an interpersonal conflict with people that are like really a part of like the princess's life.
Right. Like he's the royal vizier. Like and he's the main.
How much closer do you get?
Right. Like and
the royal vizier.
That
would be me.
But you're so old.
One of my favorite lines. So that line, and I can't believe it, I'm losing to a rug. I say out of context all the time.
Anyways, so obviously like Aladdin has his character arc, and everybody else, although they're told really well, are kind of pieces to aid that along. And this is my opinion of the Jasmine character. So she's in a position, right, where she's of age ? We're not really sure.
I would assume. I think
she's
okay,
16.
Right, like
16 to 18, like
she's in her teens,
teenager, but
and
of marrying age.
And her
whatever that
dad
means.
is shipping in rich dudes.
Wait a minute.
Another suitor for the princess
to come in to be a suitor, and they come in and they interview presumably with the 16-year-old, and she says, "Nah, I'm not interested," or she's interested,
or Sixer Tiger on them.
And she's also like a princess. So as it pertains to like the problems that she's going through, you're more like, okay, well, you're a classic 16-year-old who's just kind of like rebellious. Like it's not like it's because when I watched it, I was like, oh, these were arranged marriages, right? I'm not so sure they were, because I think he was bringing him in, and he's like, do you like him? She's like, nah. She's like, okay, I'll bring you another one. And I'm like, that kind of sounds dope. Like, that'd be great if my mom right now was like, hey, I'm gonna find a bunch of
Marcus
really...
saying she's 14. Ooh.
Oh gosh, that's not good. Let's just pretend we didn't know.
She's 18.
Yeah, please. It's like if my mom was like, hey, Greg, I'm gonna bring a bunch of rich girls one at a time that all want to marry you. I'd be like, hey, mom, that sounds pretty good, actually. I want you to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And then like what? I'll just like you go one at a time until you find somebody that you want to marry. And like that sounds pretty great. So at least for me, it's not like I don't necessarily think the movie was trying to build a ton of sympathy for like, oh, she's like in this really hard place. I think it's more so like, hey, like she's a normal teenager who's like, hey, this is like, I don't want to be told what to do. I kind of want to like have time on my own and get out of here.
Can we talk about marriage for a second?
Oh boy, you're the only one that's going to have any experience here. But let's talk.
No. I think this isn't like a marriage experience thing. I think we over romanticize it in America.
Yeah.
Nowhere else in the world do we talk about marriage in the way that we do.
Right.
We talk about it as this like rip away the rest of the world, fall in love with this person. It's like it's just a straight commitment. Like you can just choose to marry someone and just treat them well and learn to love them. Like you can learn to do everything. It's not like are they the right person?
Right.
It's like, no, you're gonna like learn to mold to them.
That plays a smaller role in your life as far as like your overall like intimate fulfillment in life. It's like, okay, well, that's one part of your life, and you're gonna have that with a person, and that's gonna happen for you. Whereas now, I think in the States, it's like that's the biggest part of your life, and you have to think about
90%
it's you have to make the right decision, or like and so yes, I do think
and also you have to
viewing
consider
it through those
that our
lenses.
cultural idea of you marry for love and only for that reason is a relatively novel thing. I'm not saying that this is not passing judgment on or saying it's right to be like, we need to marry so that I can merge your father's cattle farm with my goat empire, right? Not saying that's right.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make any moral judgment here. I'm just saying that the idea that marriage is done exclusively for love is a little bit more, and well, only for that reason is again. There are like the story of Rachel of Jacob, right? Jacob wants to marry Rachel because he's in love with her.
Right.
So there's precedent for that, but again, marriage was. Because I mean now, like economically, marriage doesn't mean a whole lot
Right.
Yeah.
Like it not like we talk about marrying into money, but it doesn't mean as much in that sense as it used to.
Bro, I've married into someone with a stable job as someone who does contract work. Cha-ching!
Well,
We can all learn
Catherine,
something
I hope
today,
you're not
ladies and
watching.
gentlemen.
Oh, she knows. Oh, she knows. Honey, can we get something on
Sugar
Amazon?
Mama,
Jay married up, ladies and gentlemen.
100%. There's no question about that.
All right. Well, before we get too deterred with marriage,
Getting sidetracked.
I think it was important
But-
if we're going to talk about her character to understand, like,
yes.
marriage.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the idea, is that she was in a culture where that was the case, but she probably related more towards the American viewing audience that was like, hey, that's not why you should marry. And so she's a very relatable character. But anyways, so she runs into Aladdin, and Aladdin's character is super fascinating. I mean, like, watching this as an adult was almost like more powerful than watching it as a kid. Because as a kid, I think you get the idea of like you're also enamored with, you know, with Princess Jasmine and the idea that there's a better life out there than running around stealing things. And his attempts to go and get that, and the idea behind kind of getting this sidetracked with power and then ultimately finding your way back to what you ultimately wanted is kind of like a charming story. But watching it as an adult, I was like, man, it's just like, I think I just related his, like, I just found a lot of connection between kind of how we present ourselves in front of people we really want to impress, or even as like believers, like how you present yourself in front of God lots of times. And it's like, so he's presented with Jasmine, right? Like he meets Jasmine is revealed to him, and he finds her to be beautiful. I mean, he's in love with her. She leaves, and when he's stuck in a cave, that's still all he can think about. And he's
That's
like,
true.
This is my wish. I want this girl. And he's enamored with her. And when he does get himself back in front of her, he's convinced he needs to be a certain way, right? He's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, this is the law. I actually can't be who I am. Like I'm supposed to look this way. And so he starts to try really hard to look this way, right? He turns himself into a prince, but he's not really a prince. And he gets put in front of her. And in reality, he's even kind of refaced with the I mean, as an audience member, you're sitting there, you're like, oh, dude, she likes you. Like, it was obvious. Like, come on. Like, just tell her. Like, you're sitting there like, but he's not ready to be that person anymore. He's convinced that he needs to be. And it's as if, it's like when we hear the message of the gospel and we're so, you know, excited about that. And like, wow, what an amazing truth that, you know, we can be loved in our brokenness. And like, that's awesome. And yet, when we come before God, there are so many times that we feel like we need to act like we're so much more righteous than we are.
Like we're completely undeserving.
And he is the person viewing Aladdin, right? In those circumstances, and he's laughing, and it's like no, like, and I don't think the message of the story is that, hey, Aladdin, I do want you to stay a street rat and to be stealing all the time, and like I want you, like, I have a better life plan for you. I do want those things for you. I do want you to eventually become a prince. But you're not a prince right now.
Yep.
And that's okay. I still accept you and I still love you. And so he's tussling with that. And for me watching, I was like, oh, that's me like all the time, dude. Like, with people too, where it's like, hey, with friendships, I mean, and then the deeper the friendship and the deeper, you know, you grow in your relationship with Christ, it's like you become more secure in those things, right? Like we all become more secure, and you're like, okay, you know what? I can be myself around this person. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you know, the parts of yourself that you need to work on, that you don't need to work on those things, and like that's just good, you know, all is well. Like keep stealing and living on the street, you know, figuratively in the story. It's like, no, like keep working on those things and point yourself towards something good, and gradually work at becoming more like that thing. And Aladdin can, again, now that he is going to be the Sultan, I guess, it's like he I'm sure he will be gradually crafted to be more like the Sultan, but he doesn't have to pretend to be the Sultan now. No. And it's like in your friendships, in your relationships, oftentimes somebody will come to you and be like, hey, I just think you're a cool person. Like I enjoy being around you. Like I really kind of just want to hang out with you if that's cool.
Yeah.
And you're so convinced that you've got to be way cooler than that. And I think there's a lot of that comes with maturity, that you start to get more secure in who you are, but like you never lose a lot of those insecurities, you know?
No, you won't. And I think you make a really important part about relating it to Christ, in the sense that it's no longer a physical change, an action change, an attitude change. It's a heart change.
Yeah.
In that nothing you do outside of what your heart genuinely believes about now yourself, about like, am I enough? Until that part changes, nothing else will work. You have to have something that's way deeper than just forming a new habit. Like, I did it for 3 months. That means I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's almost like addiction too. Like, you're addicted to your own fault and personality change. It has to be something that now you want, like, intrinsically. There's something so huge about that. And that's something you can really only be taught through living a life experience. And Alladin has given that life experience. That's the only way he's actually going to change. He has his downfall. He has his moment in order to learn, to accept. And then on top of all that, he gets, like, the mercy, which is so cool.
Yeah. And I think they just do a good job depicting that. Like, I think it's a really talented form of character writing to just show him, essentially like him, being accepted and loved by Jasmine is the thing that gives him that spark, that value that he's looking for and that excitement. And yet he loses track of that and feels like it's becoming this prince. And he gets so distracted that he's dissolving friendships, and now he's telling the genie to go screw himself because he's got to use his last wish for him, and he's not going to wish him free. And even Abu and Carpet are kind of like, dude, like, you're a mess right now. Yeah. And he's so caught up in being this thing that he's not. So I thought that the theme, the through line theme for him was really powerful. And again, like I said, I think in these Disney movies, especially the originals that are an hour and 20 minutes, they for the most part focus on one person and say, hey, we're going to make you have a really effective character arc that the audience can join in and experience things through. We'll have other characters that affect that, like Jasmine being the main love interest, Genie being the guide, Jafar being the big bad, but mainly you're going to experience this movie through Aladdin. And I thought that he was a really good vehicle to do that. Like, I think he was relatable. You sympathize with his fears, you sympathize with his insecurities, probably even more so when you get older. When you're a kid, you're just like, oh, like, what are you doing? But when you get older, you're like, oh man, nope. I can definitely feel those feelings of wanting
especially the poverty part.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, guys, I want to say it was a great conversation.
I like this.
So Marco said he's only getting audio out of one ear, and I'm looking at the audio out, and it's only coming out of the right. Is it supposed to be doing that?
The audio out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
switch to Jay's camera.
Come look at this. Come look at this, and then I'm just gonna keep talking.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do
Jay's gonna react. So I'm gonna talk, and Jay's gonna react.
Ooh. We're a reaction channel.
All right. So I disagree with Greg. I think everything he said was wrong. That's not actually true. I love you, Greg. But so one of the things is Aladdin is without a doubt the protagonist.
Correct.
So he 100% is the primary person. He gets the most character growth. He gets the biggest story arc. But I would argue everyone has an arc. Now, some are more developed than others. Like the Sultan's arc is literally he's a bumbling dad who loves his daughter, but, is just kind of like, well, my hands are tied. And at the end, he's like, okay, you know what? Maybe I can do something.
Sure. But it's the detail of the arc.
It's the detail of the arc. And it's focused on Jafar Jafar probably has the flattest arc. He starts off evil and he finishes evil, but his motivation is his lust for power consumes him. So in a sense, he does have an arc, but it's more driven by the okay, hey, we fixed it. What was it? Just that cable? Yeah. All right, everything was broken and it's ruined. We're gonna have to start over. So let me play the funk music again. No, just kidding. Welcome.
For those listening on speakers or in their car,
apologies.
Not terrible though.
Yeah. Apologies.
All right, Marcus says we back, baby. Hooray! Okay. But yeah, if you have audio issues, let us know because it's probably
was that the
on
whole
our end.
podcast?
No. It was just recently.
Oh, cool. I like that.
So,
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
So, but Genie, I think, has a pretty good character arc.
Fantastic.
He goes from being completely hopeless to being hopeful, and his whole song, "You've Got a Friend in Me."
It's not "You Got a Friend in Me." It's never had a friend.
Never. You got a friend in me.
Very
Toy
specifically,
Story.
you have never had a friend.
You've never had a friend like me, and his whole point in that
Very
song,
specific.
his whole point is that in that song is like, you're gonna love me because of what I can do for you, and then as he and Aladdin become actual friends, he's like, you're gonna do this for me because you love me, right? Yeah. You're gonna set me free because you love me, and that's why it's such a betrayal for him when Aladdin goes back on his word, and.
His first moment of trust, too.
He was like, "Oh, I actually trust you." Well, and he's like, "No one's ever asked me that before." And he says, So while I agree, no one has as big or complex a character arc as Aladdin. I would argue that the 6 major characters, well, maybe not Iago. Iago's character arc happens in the second one. But the major characters all have at least something of a character arc. I would say Aladdin far and away the most, and then Genie definitely has one, and then I think Jasmine has one as well, and then Jafar's and Sultan's are pretty flat. But I would argue that from a story perspective, they do have character arcs. You can argue how flat they are, but they do have them.
Well, I think there is a difference between a character like having development and them having an actual full character arc. Like, I think that things happen to the Genie. I mean, like he's at a different place, obviously, but I don't particularly know that he was like a different person he acted as the guide in the movie. Like he generally knew, like he was the voice of wisdom. Like he wasn't caught up with the whole like, hey, keep pretending and that's going to be great for you. Like he was very quickly to be like, hey, dude, tell her the truth. Like right away.
Yeah.
He's the voice of reason, and that doesn't really change. And Alladin changing is ultimately what changes him, right? Like he's like, well, yeah, I'm a slave to you and to whoever else rubs the lamp. And if Aladdin's character arc didn't happen, then he would effectively be the same person. But because he changed, now he's a free person. But he's still the Genie. He didn't grow as a person. Is kind of how I view character arcs.
Well, no, but I think he did. He went from a character. He went from someone without hope to someone with hope.
I think it's actually a genius form of character arc in terms of, and like you said, development, not arc.
Sure.
Where Genie has had thousands of years to think of this. If his character arc was any more external than that, like Aladdin's was, where it's extremely visible and emotional and changes quicker, we wouldn't really believe he's that old. He would sound immature for his cosmic deity-like lifespan. And so his is a much more internalized, personal perspective change. One that I feel like a lot of people that I think once we're adults, like with like kids and grandkids, we're going to relate to the Genie more.
Yeah, I mean,
and also he consigns. So like, right. So he starts off. Aladdin says, "What would you wish for?" Because Aladdin's just like, I have no idea what to wish for. So Genie's like, no one, in 10,000 years, no one's ever asked me that. But I would wish to be free.
I mean, I guess you could say it's a character arc.
Hold on, I'm not done. No. And then, he starts to believe. He starts to believe. He has to in this case because I'm behind the desk. I have the power. He starts to believe. Oh, Aladdin is someone I can trust. He's not like the other masters I've had. Which they do actually. There are a couple points where they emphasize certain things more in the live action, and this is one of them, where Will Smith's like, "You're not that guy," because he. So Aladdin's different from all the other masters he's had in that Aladdin is not super selfish.
Right.
Which he indicates as being, he's the street rat. He because the whole song of like, the only way I can eat is if I steal food. So he steals the food and then he ends up giving it away because he sees people that have a greater need than him. And so he gets this hope, and then Aladdin kind of dashes his hopes, betrays his trust. And then at the end of the movie, Genie's gotten to this point where he now cares so much for Aladdin that he's willing to give up his one wish. But of course Aladdin then also, because Aladdin has also grown, says, "I wish you to be free." And then he has like that culmination of ecstasy and joy where he's like, "I'm out of here. I'm history. I'm mythology. I don't know what I am. I'm free." So I would say he does have a character arc.
I mean, the argument isn't, and we're going to segue into this now, isn't that there's no character development and arc for him in the remakes.
No. I'm talking about the original.
Yeah. I guess my opinion on it is that you take the original and there's really the attempt to develop one character, and the side characters, there might be changes that happen to them, like in it, like as a result, like Jasmine is also in a different place, but effectively Jasmine didn't like change like character wise. Like I would, and it's not like
I
hey,
disagree.
everybody hate
I think
Jasmine.
she did. I think her character does change.
But how does her character change?
Okay, she starts off saying, "I just want to escape from this palace," and by the end, she's saying, "I'm willing to stay in the palace and actually, and fulfill my responsibilities as a royal." It's a little more understated in the original, but she does kind of change her. I have to get away from the palace. It's a prison to being like, oh, I can actually do things here.
Let me mediate on this.
Yeah.
No.
Let me mediate.
Yeah. Let's hear Jay.
So, you two are saying two facts that exist in the same opinion, in my opinion, like in where I'm seeing here. Greg is trying to explain the fact that Aladdin is the only one that actually has character development, meaning like his moral center and understanding in the world has fundamentally changed forever.
Yeah.
Versus these other characters have now just had perspective shifts, but they're still on the same plane. And Jasmine now has new views, different ideas, different perspectives, different wants, but her like central character as a person hasn't developed anything new.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a mistake to say that in order to have a character arc, your character has to do like a complete 160. Because Alladin is still the same person. He's just learned some lessons.
I'm just saying we have to draw the line somewhere.
Right. Well, like this
have
is
to make a
Well,
decision.
I did draw the line. I said Iago didn't have any character arc,
But this is-
Iago's Iago the whole time.
right.
such a
Like,
low
but that
You just said bird to princess, bro. How do you mark that?
although it's
I drew the
speaking
line.
lines,
You asked
he
me
has
to draw
quite a bit of line.
Abu doesn't have a character arc. Carpet doesn't have a character arc.
But this is my point: is that I think if you don't give it any like detailed observation, you would just assume that Jasmine has character development and a character arc. But in reality, she doesn't want to escape the palace. She doesn't want to be told what to do. Like she doesn't want to be bossed around. Like that's kind of her motivation. Is she wants to make her own choice. Like, tell me, princess, when is the last time that you let your heart decide? Like it's kind of like her through line is I want to make my own choice, and she makes her own choice. So in my opinion,
That's an arc.
No,
That's an arc right
that's my
there.
straight arrow.
That's my point. My point is that she wanted to make her own choice, and then she made her own choice.
Here.
There's nothing that like she doesn't change as a. It's not like I want to make my own choice, and then by the end of the movie, she's going, you know what? I think it's okay that some people with wisdom make choices in my life. That would be a character.
Involve a person like
Changing.
fundamentally changing. I think it can be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
does.
does.
I think it can be.
That's an
you
arc.
just realize. but I think the way you're describing a character changing, and the way I'm describing a character changing.
Now we're on semantics, though. We can agree that.
We're on semantics.
That's fine.
But
So I would
you
argue
are
that she
saying
does
that
change.
You're right. So I think that you would agree that a character has to change in order for there to be an arc. You're just
Yeah,
saying
that's
that
why I'm
she
saying
does
Iago
change.
and the Carpet and Abu don't because
Right.
they're the same character and they don't. Nothing happens to them that makes them have to change what they're doing
And
or how
Jasmine
they're
doesn't
acting.
change what she
I-
wants to
I would-
do.
She
I
doesn't change what she wants, but she changes how she acts.
I don't know though. I mean, does she?
I think so.
she
Again,
likes
it's
likes
much
Aladdin.
More, it's much more understated. It's much more understated in the first one. She learns to look beyond the external.
No, what? She learns.
It's okay. Greg is a misogynist. We all know this. Let's move on.
Yeah, I'm the token guy who apparently hates women on this cast. So
I wouldn't have guessed that.
somehow
the
I
hat didn't give it away or
some.
anything. You know, someone told me at a comedy show one time that this is
got
a
him, Archie.
mental health dial, and like once you're all the way back here, anything can happen. Like you are open book. Like frontwards hat, you have some like boundaries with how open you'll be in public, but backwards hat means like this is getting uncorked.
It's great because it's the first time I've worn a backwards hat on this show. This is the first time I've worn a hat outside of Nathanael making me because I was the producer. What does Nathaniel's hat say about him?
It says, "Hello, governor. I'm here to pick you up, take you home. Where you go?"
Canceled. Racist.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Racist? Is that is British a race?
Is British a race? Well, technically, if you want to define it
I'm
by like
colorblind.
ethnicity, yes.
Jay actually is colorblind, guys. Like he's not saying that as like a racial. Like I'm colorblind. I don't see color.
Is this where I'm like, I'm married to a Chinese person. I can't be racist.
Anyways, all right. So we spent a long exposition having to explain to Nathaniel what character arcs are, but we'll get back on target here. All right.
Look up Merriam-Webster's dictionary.
The character has to change, and you were arguing the same thing. I just disagree with your point. However, let's talk about.
You're so wrong.
Okay, I'm so wrong. Okay, so let's talk about. Let's talk.
You're good. I'm listening.
Okay, let's talk about the live action. So, in the past, this is the general take is that we've really liked the originals, and the live actions have been put in nice terms, underwhelming. Put in probably more honest terms, hot garbage. Now, that hasn't always been the case, and we might get some surprise takes from certain people here from this one. So, why don't? What, Nathaniel? You're still looking something up, or do you want to give your thoughts on?
Thoughts on the fourth one? Okay, so
Let's hear your thoughts
it
on the live
starts.
action.
It starts, and
Do
I
we want to go
immediately-
categorically?
Let's
Like,
let's
do we
just
wanna
let's
start
just let's just
about-
all throw in
Yeah,
on
let's
the
start
live
with-
action.
so-
We're all just gonna start
so
throwing in a live
I'm gonna
action.
be honest. When it started, we're like
Yeah.
10 minutes in, and I'm looking at Greg like
We watched
this
the live action
is
one together.
going to be awful because the intro music is so bad.
It-
And
well-
Jay, do you want to explain what happened? So
It wasn't the intro
Yo,
music.
yeah.
Wasn't the
Oh,
intro
no.
music. It was the first the song. The
Yeah.
What's the
Arabian
name?
Nights.
Yeah.
Wasn't it that-
Arabian Nights. Arabian Nights. Will Smith starts doing it. They changed a couple of the lines.
Yes.
But whatever. That part was like okay.
It was what's the
But
one
then it's
with
this-
the
one
with
step
Aladdin?
ahead of
Yeah,
the
that
drum.
one. I don't know what it's called. That one was an atrocity.
It was just so bad, and we're looking at each other like no.
Yeah,
don't,
yeah,
like, stop.
Okay.
At that point, okay, since we're on the topic of music, we'll kind of let Jay get into it a little bit. I don't know if it has any relevance to this song specifically, but me and Nathanael had the same reaction to that song.
Give me more from you so I have more to talk about.
Yeah,
because
okay.
I got plenty to say. That's like my perspective, but I would love to incorporate your.
So as far as just how the first song was concerned, like obviously the original is super charming, really funny. He's running around, it's great. And in this one, there are multiple points where he kind of just stops and does a little like spoken word where he's like rip rap, street rat. I don't buy that. And then it gets into the song and the visuals, and it might have even been more offensive, just the camera work or on, I don't even know what you would call it, a music video portion of the movie.
Yep.
But they would do the whole speeding up and slowing down. Like there are parts where it looked like a 1960s, jumbled up. They'd be like all dancing, and then there would be a uber slow motion that would come out of nowhere. And I am like
super Bollywood.
I am like, I'm like having a really difficult time.
But here's the thing: it was directed by Guy Ritchie, and for a lot of the time, you're like, "Where's Guy Ritchie at?" And then it would just do random slow mo, and you'd be like, "Oh, there he is."
There's Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
So that was our first qualm is with that first song, the original being so great, and that one just kind of between the random segments of spoken word and also just the pacing of it was, and I think it had a lot to do with the fact that in the original he's physically moving so fast. He's like. He's moving around. It's like one step head of the and he's like flying all over, and they physically just couldn't do that, and so they had to slow the pacing of the song down so much to where he's kind of like walking and singing it and looking awkward, and it just sounded terrible to me.
Yes.
So to tell me, I mean, am I just way off on that?
No, you guys are perfectly on spot. And so
here we go.
Sorry.
Flat character arc.
Oh boy!
before we get into this, let's go.
There you go. It is an actual thing.
Do you notice there's a different term?
Yeah, there's a reason. It's called flat. It's
Your
similar.
face is flat.
It's,
I don't know
it's
if you've
similar
ever
to a flat Earth
driven in
theory,
an
actually.
arc, but
If a flat character
it
arc,
is a legitimate
flat Earth,
defined thing. So
same
I'm not
thing.
wrong. The point is, I'm not wrong, and y'all suck.
Okay, Jay, let's hear your thoughts on.
But let's talk about
flat-
this garbage
flat Earth.
music.
Yeah.
Something we can all agree on.
Yeah. So there is something that people need to understand when they say they don't like something. You're correct. Don't ever inflate the fact that someone having a more in-depth understanding of why makes your opinion any different. And
It does. It might possibly invalidate it, but no.
It won't. It
Just
really
kidding.
won't. And that, let's say you get an uncanny valley feeling from someone or something. It's a totally valid feeling, and it's just harder to explain it. And what we're getting is akin to an uncanny valley feeling. And there's three main purposes for that happening. The main of which, and this is what something that a lot of people don't understand about what makes Disney music so unsettling in the remakes, is pitch correction. Every single voice doesn't get auto-tuned. They get pitch correction. That means once a note has been held at a certain range, 0.3, 0.5 seconds, it will be sustained almost like a synthesizer is hitting a note, and it will actually repeat the tone and reverberation of a voice. So it's like as if I was trying to tell you.
It's like creepy.
It's very, and it literally is uncanny valley. It's it's a real voice transforming into a synthesized note, and it sends just the horrible shivers up my spine when I hear it. The worst of which is Will Smith, who's singing in this awkward lower alto range that out of nowhere, it perfectly pitch shifts to all these notes that hit this flat line, and we lose everything about what a character sounds like when singing from the original.
Yeah.
It's completely lost. And what happens is, and this applies directly to the way it was shot, is now when you're making a remake, and this is what Disney continually gets exhaustion on, where they start horrible and actually end a little bit better in this because they get fatigue about trying so hard, is when translating a animated film to a live action film, you're thinking, where is it happening? And you figure out where in the film it was, you make a set, you get the where.
Yeah.
Then you ask, what is happening? And they stop there. Those two questions get answered, and they think that's what makes a remake, and they don't ask, well, what was the purpose of the scene?
Yes.
Or why was this scene put in when a lot of other scenes were cut? A lot of things are cut. And they completely stop asking what's the point of this scene and why is it, happening and what is it supposed to evoke in us? And all they care about is making the scene happen. They just want to make sure, this number has to be in it and we have to have a right location. Okay, we're done. And what happens to the music when you do that is something terrifying. It is so scary, and it's like watching someone get plastic surgery. It's so unsettling. Like you see them come out of the office.
So it's
and they're just
beautiful.
like, oh gosh, yeah, and so what happens?
I'm from
is-
Miami, so
Yeah, that's perfect. And so the reason that this song scares you is that 0.3 seconds into a note being held, it turns into a synthesizer. That's just disgusting. That's just so creepy. Then on top of that, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the original, there is no drum set. The only percussion ever felt is supposed to be genuine world percussion, hand drums, everything like that, and it is hand played. Well, cutting budget costs in a film like this, you're going to get synthesized percussion, which is the first thing that gets pulled out because they're expensive. There's a lot more equipment involved. It's harder to get someone who specializes in it. It's just the first thing tossed out. And so now you have something that a consistent inhuman BPM, meaning it is at the same rate of tempo the whole time, completely inhuman like a clock. And then you are now timing a video to that. So now the video is on an inhuman clock procession. It is like you just went on TikTok and put time stamps on a speed up timer to hit the beats. It's that bad. And so it happens even deeper. We're going to get down to like the part that genuinely makes my skin crawl with like the audio sins being committed to this now is that every part of the vocal range in this, they do something called dipping. Whenever a sound...
I dip, you dip, we dip.
Yeah. So whenever a part of the sound enters in the vocal range, they disappear it. It becomes either lower volume or that frequency is pulled away. That way the voice can make it through. So that way children can clearly hear the lyrics on their home video entertainment. And so you get this really consistent mid-tone with no richness, no high ends. And the voice is constantly the same volume. There's no fluctuation.
Oh my gosh. That is like that is like you're legitimately describing the thing that annoyed me is it just the singing is just so flat the whole time.
All the remakes, not just Aladdin.
Yeah, but even like the dialogue a lot of times was very flat, and you're like, "Where's my emotion? Hello, will you please emote?" And Will Smith's the only person who can emote, and I'm like, but Will Smith's just being Will Smith. Like, what's going on with everyone else?
And it's this creepy, and I think Greg can speak to this the most. It's the technically correct.
Right. Well, it's funny because you mentioned dipping and like we have to, I don't have to, but like I do this in the stuff that I do because for marketing, it's really important to hear how clear every single word is. Yeah, right, exactly. So it's important to do things like putting a compression on there and making sure like that your levels are all like that the ones that are peaking, like you're bringing those levels down and like you're making everything try to sound very linear to where it's like, all right, when this guy is speaking for his marketing videos and I have music playing in the background, I want him to always sound here and the music to always sound here, even though sometimes he's talking like this. And sometimes he's
ducking,
talking. Right. There's a lot, it's like, there's a lot of terms for it, but I know what you meant. And so like, that makes sense. Yeah. For singing in a movie, and I even know that like you don't make these applications to vocal numbers, like, and I've only done this a few times, but I was told very plainly, like, you don't do that. Like, you don't make those kind of audio adjustments to this. And it's funny because like it's like the way that you're talking about that, it's like I can't express it like you can, and I can't find the details in it, but I can still be affected in the same way negatively by I'm like, I just don't like the way this sounds, and you're able to know why that is.
Exactly.
And I think that's awesome.
So I want to get onto a new level with this.
Wait. Before we go to the new level, I think now that you're saying that, that's why that we hated, other than for those reasons, the live action,
the other animated
Lion King.
Yes,
the new animated
every voice was talking like this the whole time, and I'm like,
Yeah.
How are you better at emoting in 1998? Like, come on, guys. Or 494 or wherever it came out. It's terrible. But yes, deeper. Let's go. We need to go deeper.
Oh, absolutely. So we're going to talk about something called zero scoring, which you may know that term.
I might know it as something else. Explain it.
Totally, yeah. So there in the film industry are 23 tracks that every movie is edited to before the composer is brought on, unless you're literally getting like the best of the best. So if you're like at like AA or lower, you're using zero scoring to edit to. And so Aladdin was zero scored with the original music. They were allowed to do that because it doesn't make it to final production. So we're like, you know what? We're going to take the video that we shot, edit it to look good, and then sync it to the original audio. And then we're going to get some guys to come in and they have to make a song close enough to the original that you don't totally flip our editing upside down and drown it in a pool of salt. And so you take such an exciting song at the beginning, one step, really like pop
One
in.
step
Yep.
ahead of the... like, you already got caught!
Yeah.
They caught you. I hate to break it to you.
And so my first thought when I saw it was, well, okay, I know you edited this to the original song. How in the world could it have been slowed down like this?
Yeah.
And that was a post-editing panic move. That was this video looks terrible with the audio. What do we do? And then this is what scared me. No one's eyebrows move. I don't know. Like, if you ever watch this film, watch their eyebrows. There's so much CGI going on that they're so worried about the eye tracking.
It's so good.
That when they
It's so
video,
good.
when they video their face for the imaging to put it on during CGI, they tell them don't move your eyebrows because that changes so much that they have to change in the final shot. That their eyes are the only thing that move. And I don't know if you know
amazing.
about anything about emotion, but if your eyebrows don't move, and this is coming from an Italian, like if your eyebrows don't move, you have no emotion. You're a robot. I need to kill you on sight. Uncanny Valley just went through the roof.
Yeah.
So now I've got a synthesized AI voice that is at a perfect volume level that never leaves my ears. And now your eyebrows don't move. I am terrified of you. You are
No wonder
scaring me.
these songs are so
Absolute nightmare fuel.
unappealing because
Well, okay, so
we've
when we
only
watched
made it
Little
one song
Mermaid,
into the live action.
the singing Little Mermaid was not bad. So did they not do that in that case?
Have you seen the new Little
Have you
Mermaid?
seen the new Little Mermaid? Because the singing was actually not terrible.
I've only seen the actual background footage and then like the export shots, so I haven't seen it on film, but
Right.
I've watched all of the larger moments.
Okay.
And the difference is that it's a full CG movie versus this was one where they had to pull in live action shots versus a complete blue screen,
Right.
Where
The music in Lion King, which was full CG, was terrible.
Yes.
Beauty and the Beast. Oh boy. Ay,
So it's the
That was
auto-tune.
just-
The auto-tune
the pitch
for
correction was
so
horrid.
for old poor Emma Watson. We've trashed her a lot on this podcast.
Okay,
we have not trashed her. I'm
you've
kidding.
trashed her.
We haven't even trashed her. Okay, it's just funny that people keep assuming that that's what we're doing.
You do not defend your co-host.
We had one take, and when I say we both had the same take.
We both had the same take, but the video he put up a short and it got like 2,000 views.
yeah.
and it's us.
And it's a
Riffing.
picture. If the video is on me and I'm saying something, and then Greg interjects with
it's my take over his
with a
face,
spicy
and so
take,
everybody
and
came
everyone's
down
like,
on him.
It's like, oh, this bald guy, he's a son of a. I'm like, I get it.
That's perfect. I mean, whoever, who
It's
else?
just amazing. It's the greatest thing that could have happened. It was just like, how dare you? And you're like, I wasn't even the one.
I wouldn't even
Oh,
describe
and now
Nathaniel's-
Marker's getting on my case again. I'm not. The argument
face
was,
isn't even
the
punchable.
argument was never that she wasn't. It was the specific
We gotta
aesthetic
bring
of
Jay
Belle.
up to- okay.
It was the specific. Okay, so I got accused of saying Emma Watson's not hot.
Yes, that was the
Not
main,
what I said.
That was the main sin.
What I said was Emma Watson does not have the visual aesthetic to play Belle. Completely different thing.
Yeah, and it was like the way that this take was made was that Nathaniel was being very delicate, and he was like I don't think she really works.
Yells,
as-
Emma Watson's not hot.
Yeah, okay, I didn't say I said she's not hot enough
Hot
because
enough.
I was just kind of completing what I knew
Okay.
you were thinking, and I was agreeing with it. And then we went into exposition where we were saying, just to be clear, she's a beautiful person. We're like, but in this movie, she is depicted as a very basic Towns-looking person, and in the original, she's supposed to be like her name literally means beauty. And everybody's singing about how she's just totally standing out. And even in the animated one, all the townspeople look like animals, and she's like gorgeous. And in this, and it's true. In the live action one, Emma Watson looks like she could have been like the librarian. Like she's very cute.
I mean, she was the librarian.
She's very cute, and she's Emma Watson. But I understood the point you were trying to make, and I tried,
Yes.
and I just made it less delicately. And anyways, Nathaniel got ripped.
I got
and
ripped and for that one,
and so
man.
now every time Emma Watson's brought up, we're just like, oh yeah,
Punch the ball guy.
We apparently hate her. Yes.
See,
Anyways,
that's why I'm trying to push it and just be like, no, Greg's a misogynist. It's definitely him. Nothing to do with me.
Okay.
Emma Watson, we know you watch this podcast,
Yeah.
and we love you.
I apologize on behalf of my toxic male friend.
Yeah.
Clearly,
Okay,
once
but-
again.
But to answer your
Me with my
question before the
backwards
podcast, Greg, Jay, no, we never get sidetracked.
No, it's great. No, I can tell.
What were we even talking about?
Okay.
So we were talking about the first song.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. Sorry.
and then the auto tune came up with Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
So we okay. Let's move past
move
that
on.
and just
So-
talk more about the broad strokes.
Broad
of the,
strokes. Okay, so
we can get back into the
big
music
problem,
later.
Big problem. Big red flag for me on Aladdin's character. So they did kind of yada yada through the Jafar and the Cave of Wonders, where
Yeah.
in the original
Much bigger deal.
it's a much bigger lead up to, oh, okay, he's clearly looking for this lamp thing, and introduces Jafar, and introduces Iago,
Right.
and introduces this idea of the diamond in the rough.
Right.
That only one person can go into the Cave of Wonders, and that's this diamond in the rough. And Jafar's like, okay, well, then I got to figure out who this is.
Yeah.
yeah. There's an
'Cause-
overhead shot of a guy being thrown in saying he's not the diamond
Yeah.
in the rough. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all we get.
And so Aladdin, he gets the jewel from the Sultan,
Right.
which is also how they show us that he has mind control powers,
Yeah.
which they kind of did in the anyways.
Not much. Yeah.
Not much.
Yeah.
But so he gets the diamond and he uses it to find faster. I go, yes, your rottenness. Could we just wait for a real storm? The Iago Jafar buddy comedy is so good, and they just completely
Yeah, I
deleted
know.
that.
That was
They didn't
sad.
want talking animals.
Yeah. Well, because
he still
as
talked.
As it
No,
turns
he
out,
still
real life
talked. As a
animals.
Yeah, but he wasn't like repeating things. He was saying important exposition things, so he's clearly intelligent like Iago was.
But
No,
but-
he barely
But
talks.
back to the Lion King problem. You just can't have animals that actually look like real animals have a character. Like they can't
I'm
have
telling
emotion
you,
in the
I
character
have
because in
solved
real life they
the
don't.
problem.
And-
Disney, if you do this, I will require 1% cut. I'm being generous. Googly eyes, smack them on everything, guaranteed.
Just the
That'll
bird with
sell.
googly eyes.
I guarantee
Anyways.
it would work.
Okay, so you
But so in the original, the reason Aladdin is this diamond in the rough is because no one can see his real value, right?
Right.
He's someone who's more than what he appears.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so, and that's the whole point of the original song of the Street Rat song is he's saying, you know, everyone sees me just as a thief, right? The girls in the brothel are singing. He's the reason we have a new crime
a
wave.
brothel?
It is a brothel.
Woof.
And that's and someone's like, that's why they hate him because he can't afford them.
so good. Useless dirt.
That's so good. Like, what the heck are you doing over here?
But he really has all these virtues that he doesn't get to display, that people don't see, like his courage, his kindness, his generosity, which
Yeah.
we see when he shares the bread with the kids. Right.
Right.
Abu, he's kind of a punk, right?
Sure.
But Aladdin's the diamond in the rough because he has these virtues that people don't recognize in him. And so he's like, riff raff, street rat, I don't buy that. If only they look closer.
It's such a depressing phrase.
Yeah.
Diamond in the rough. Like you just like all of you, not only are you economically unsuccessful, morally, you're all decrepit.
You also look kind of garbage.
Like
and we just
that.
need to throw you in a grinder, just grind you down, and then you look pretty.
I don't know. I feel like I heard the phrase for the first time again. Like I'd heard it my whole life with the film, but then when I heard the remake, I'm just looking at real people now, and I'm just like, oh, wow, that's
Yeah.
dark. I don't know, especially living in Charlotte. If I heard
But-
that, like you have to go into Sugar Creek and find the diamond in the rough. I'm like, ooh,
I guess I'm not getting into this cave. But the point is, so you can see how he's the diamond in the rough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
like,
see it.
makes
It's
sense.
because of his character.
Yeah.
In the remake, because in the original, he's only stealing the food he needs to eat.
Yeah.
In the
They
remake,
didn't do that in the remake or no?
he stole some like random stuff and then bartered it.
Oh, that's
And
right.
he's
that's right,
very
that's right,
unapologetic
right.
about the fact that he's just stealing, like he's just a thief.
Yeah.
Right? So
That's a good point.
In
I
my
never
mind,
thought about
and again, it wasn't like a huge deal breaker because I actually did like some of the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But I was just in my mind, I was like, he's not the diamond in the rough. The whole reason Hakeem couldn't do it is he was like a thief and a murderer. He's like, oh, I had to slit your throats to get it, right? So
yeah.
he's the bad guy. He's what you think of when you think of when the guards see Aladdin, they think he's the same kind of thief as Hakeem.
Right.
But the reason he's the thing that makes him, and this is something I really didn't pick up on until we just watched it and then watched the remake, that what makes him the diamond in the rough is his character.
Yeah.
And so
That's
in
not
the
just
remake,
special.
they kind of dilute that, I would say, quite a bit. That they dilute this aspect of like his character by making him more of just kind of regular thief guy. He still does have that nobility where he's sharing his dates with a kid, which like dates are very sweet. Bread was a much better choice to share with kids. So those kids are now diabetic. Whoops. Actually, that is probably fine. But
of course, that's how Nathanael the chef would see that scene and be like, "You terrible person! You gave them the wrong food. Starving children. You gave them the wrong thing. No,
no.
Maillard reaction."
He gets all mad at Alladin. He's like, "You're trying to give me diabetes? What the heck? What is this?"
But the point is, while I still think they did. He still has the aspects of the original Aladdin character. I think it's not as strongly the diamond in the rough. And they also like, again, it's Iago. Iago's the one who finds him because he sneaks into the palace.
Right.
And so because he sneaks into the palace, that's what he's like, oh, rock, diamond in the rough. And it's like, what about being able to do parkour and sneak into a palace makes you the diamond in the rough? Like I would think a lot of thieves could do that.
Yeah.
If anything,
so it was about his like physical prowess and not his character. Whereas in the other one, the magic was like, this is the guy.
Realistically, though, would Iago or him really understand what a diamond in the rough is?
right. Which is why
my
in the
point
original,
is in
they
the
had to
remake, it
use
seems
the-
like they used the magic gem that was just like
they would never understand.
they
that.
used wall hacks. So
Yeah.
In this one, they all of a sudden are perceptive enough to know that. And I even thought in that scene, I'm like, isn't that more like Rough in the Diamond in the sense that.
He's really bad at
is
playing baseball.
from the slums, and now he is with all the upper class. So isn't like, wouldn't that be like the term that the bird would just naturally say, rather than like, a diamond in the rough? I'm like, well, why did Iago know that? But okay, so just to give, guys, I feel like we're crawling through the remake.
yeah. Let's
Okay, so
zip forward to when Jafar shows up, and Jafar.
Okay, let's go
Zip forward to when Will Smith shows up, and then the whole like middle portion of the movie, where he's trying to woo the princess, where he's playing as Prince Ali Ababa. It was basically Arabian Hitch, and it was great. I really liked it.
It was Hitch. I mean, okay, so the main additions, at least from what I felt, because we've had a big problem we've had a problem with a lot of the remakes because they either fall into two categories typically, where it's like this was either unnecessary and this movie is just the same thing but just worse, or you made a whole bunch of changes and they all suck. Like you ruined the actual good message. Those are typically the two categories and they're all bad. This one I felt like, for the most part, I think you make a good point about the diamond in the rough. That's something I didn't think about. But for the most part, I didn't feel like many of the characters were damaged too much, or the story, the main themes. I will say a lot of the songs suffered greatly. And I actually did think that there was some additions that I was like, that I was at the very least entertained by. Now, I don't think that there was a richer theme added in that was very thought-provoking or well done, which is the more impressive feat, right? If you see something where like, wow, that's a really impressive through line. I mean, they of course, you know, they have to be like, okay, well, like Jasmine has got to have like ambition to be the Sultan in this one. But I think they actually gave her agents, like they gave her enough, like there was a reason why, and it made sense where she was like, well, I've been here I've been in the palace my whole life. I know how all the politics here work. It would make zero sense for Aladdin to come in and be the Sultan. He has no idea how to do any of this. And for me, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like I thought that was a decent way to do it. And it wasn't super toxic like most Hollywood depictions of powerful women. Where it's just like, oh, I want this and therefore I should have it because I'm a woman and like all the guys are here. Like they can't even tie their own shoes and they all suck.
Bye, Marco. Take care. We love you.
It was like, hey, there's an actual reason why this kind of works, and it makes sense that her character might have some passion to do that.
Yeah.
I will say that the song that they added,
the song that they added in the refrain. Okay, so here's the problem with that is they show that it's clearly in her head, and then and this is the problem. Like I think her wanting to be the Sultan and her being like, hey, I've done this my whole life. My mom's taught me, you know, to be for the people, and that I think that works. Right.
Yeah.
But here's what doesn't work is her whole song's about you can't shut me up. Jay's fuming about the music. So I'm gonna go over to you, Joel. Jay, hold it. When you feel like you're gonna explode, just start speaking, and I'll switch the camera to you. But basically, her whole song is about how she's not gonna be speechless. She won't let people shut her up. But the problem is no one's trying to shut her up. Everyone listens to her, and that's the weird thing.
Jafar.
So like in the original, the Sultan, and you mentioned this, the Sultan, like she's not being it doesn't seem like she's being like she has to marry, but the Sultan's not making her marry someone against her will.
He's kind of being a great dad.
He's kind of being a decent dad. He's saying, okay, you don't like them, well, but you know, we're running out of time. Again, however you think about that. But in both cases, the Sultan's really listening to her, and everyone is kind to her. Everyone defers to her. Except for Jafar. And so the one time Jafar's like, ha, women belong in the kitchen. And she's like, yeah, all the men have been saying this the whole time. It goes during her song. Like, no, literally it's just been Jafar, who is the bad guy, who nobody agrees with. So, there's an incongruity with what she's singing and what is actually she's experiencing from our point of view. They didn't show us men being awful to her, except for Jafar, who again is the villain, and we wouldn't expect him to be like, I'm going to take over Agrabah, but I'm going to respect women.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like I will agree that her new character development made sense, and I wasn't super offended by it. I don't think that. Again, this movie was almost an hour longer. It was more like an hour and 2 hours and 15 minutes as opposed to an hour and 20. So they have more time to develop people like the genie, who gets a pretty interesting character arc. They develop Jafar into. They try to do some character development there, but he was such a strange character. But as far as Jasmine's goes, I don't think it was too bad. But the song, yes, I agree with you that it came out of nowhere when she's like, "Well, I won't be silenced," and you're like, "Yeah, there you go." And then you stop and you're like, "Wait, everybody's listening to you." Like, you're like, who are you talking about? and then she's like, "Hey, guard, this is what I think," and he's like, "Okay, that sounds cool." And I'm like.
It really was just like instant resolution.
A charmed guard on top of this.
The guard was just like, yeah, that actually sounds great. It sounds way better than what I was thinking. And I'm like, all right. All right. I just kind of like waved my hands at the overall like idea of whatever that song was. But Jay, I want to hear like what are your thoughts on that song? For those who couldn't see, Jay was keeping himself from exploding when we talked about this song. So, okay. So Jay won't be silenced because he's going to talk a little bit about this song.
She will not be speechless.
Speechless. There we go. All right.
Okay.
Hit me with a daddy.
We're gonna talk even before the music.
Okay.
Like you just said, we're talking about a woman saying that she was silenced
Yeah.
by one of the best father figures in any princess movie. I think, if not the best.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, okay, like Mufasa's pretty dope.
Mufasa's good. I think Triton, I would argue, also.
Triton's a little overprotected, but no.
Yeah,
okay, maybe we don't get it. But anyways,
I would say he's the most supportive.
That's what we should do. That's
not
one.
best.
Hey, well, after we're done ranking all the movies, we should rank
best
the dads.
That's
dads.
a great
idea.
That's great.
fantastic.
Anyways, okay, so give us your thoughts.
So we are now talking about female self-expression through music. And what are the most iconic female self-expressive songs that you know?
Lemonade by
Audience
Beyonce.
participation.
So you mean like female empowerment songs, like women pumping themselves up?
Yeah.
Like I Am Women, Hear Me Roar?
Sure. Everything that makes a woman want to talk about her life experience via music.
Everything Taylor Swift's done? I don't know.
So as this,
I listen to K-pop, so I'm not really sure what they're singing about.
Like Katy Perry's "Roar Like a Lion."
great. So we're men. That's our first thought, right? A dude wrote this song. That's the most screwed up thing I ever. Like, could you please look that up? Please fact check me. Did a dude write that song? And if women's emotions are so much more, and I hate the word complicated. I think that is such a rude way to phrase it. Women need, for their own emotional sake, to look past what is the central conflict, and they care way more about the emotions the conflict is making them have. And the emotions that come out of being in a screwed up, for her perspective, situation where she is not allowed to marry anyone she wants. She has to marry a prince. She's upset at law.
Right.
And the law is what is restricting her and making her feel unable to express, unable to love, not silenced. It has nothing to do with her voice at all. And when I have asked, especially my sister, I remember we talked about it.
So it was written by Benj Pasek and Justin Paul. So it was written by two men.
Two dudes. Okay, cool. Yeah.
That's great.
That's such a sin.
Sorry. I mean, it's just great that we found that out.
God. It looks like there was not a single woman involved in the music for New Latin.
You can't do
It's a layup. Hey, let's write this one song. Let's have a song. Like, we need to write a song about the way this woman's feeling. Quick, go get Ben and that other guy Justin. Get them in here stat. Like seriously, like you're in the writer's room and some guy's like, you know what? Jasmine's gonna have a killer song, and you know what it's gonna be about? It's gonna be how she's feeling through this whole process. And they're like, oh my god,
About
like,
how
Ben,
she'll
Ben.
get, about
They're
how
like,
she'll finally
Ben,
get a voice.
You bring Justin, you get in here. What do you guys think?
No,
They're
no,
like,
no,
oh,
no.
dude, she's gonna be loud as heck, man. Everybody's gonna listen to her.
I
Like,
gotta rewind this.
yeah.
I gotta rewind this delusion. As he's like, man, we gotta write this song that this woman, she's finally gonna have a voice and she's gonna sing her feelings. Who do we have on the team that's gonna write it? And you see the female intern like getting out of her seat, like, yes, it's finally my time. Ben. Pastel, you guys, boys, let's get it. Jenny, dear, go get us some coffee. Like, nah. The patriarchy won again.
The closest Ben in my life is a construction company owner, and
He probably wrote it.
there you go. Yeah, I love him, by the way. I don't know if Ben would watch this.
He could probably
but I
write a
love
better
you, Ben.
song. I don't know who he is, but he could
He's
probably
great.
write a better song.
So now let's
Okay,
talk
wait.
about
Do you want to hear?
Yes,
Do you want to hear?
let's talk about
what they said about the song?
Sure.
Pasek and Paul wrote the lyrics for a solo for the character of Jasmine titled Speechless, which Paul called a beautiful piece of music, praising Scott's singing as incredible. Scott said the song is a punch in the face, and that it's just showcasing that Jasmine gets to a point where it's not going to be easy, and I may lose this fight, but I need to step up, and felt that many girls will be connected to the song's lyrics.
Woof. Dude, that is just... It just makes you sick. That there are a couple of dudes being like...
So like on a non-comedic level, it actually hurts to know that one of the most impactful pieces of childhood media for women.
So, sorry,
got
that was Naomi
written by
Scott. The
men.
person who sang it said that
Yeah.
about the song, but that was written by men.
Okay.
That's so painful.
Yeah.
Like,
this is rough.
Can you imagine the chance that you get to speak to this many young girls and you don't get a woman to write it? That's
Well, specifically because it's like, it's not like saying that, oh, it has to be a woman to do, an X amount of thing. Like, this song is specifically about how the female character is feeling in the movie.
yeah, specifically her feelings.
Yes, specifically that, like out of all of these dudes, that's like
As someone who studies feelings,
yeah.
So
All I can say is
yeah.
the male gaze strikes again.
So now let's talk about the music.
Yes.
This, I could punch something.
We should get something to punch
We
in
should
here.
get
Oh,
something to punch. Something to punch.
Oh God. On so many levels, this was the most egregious song in the film. On a musical level, again, we already talked about the fact that men wrote it. Like, we're not even talking about the lyrics anymore. There was a Bollywood-style 2/4 drum set beat set behind this, as if this was a mid-2000s Hillary Duff song. It just jammed like something I'd hear on the radio coming home from 6th grade.
Hillary Duff is great.
Oh, I love her stuff in her like zone. She's got great songs. And what they took out and just punched hold into this incredible moment for a character that could have been so empowering. They just put in this power ballad written by men, 2/4 drum beat, slamming song, and then the worst part, they go, nah, it's on her head. She didn't do anything. She didn't do shit.
It's true. It's true.
It's let's empower her in her head. She doesn't do anything.
As you're absorbing this though, like when you're watching the movie, you're starting to be like, listen, I'm not like, and Nathanael can attest, like I did not hate this movie. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is actually getting good. I'm laughing at the Will Smith comedy, the whole part where he's like trying to sell them jam. Like I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this movie's very charming. And here's this new music ballad, and I'm kind of getting ready for it. And I'm slowly processing that. I'm like, wait, no, no. Everybody's paused, and I'm like, there's got to be another reason. No. And then she walks back to where she originally is. And then the movie starts again, and I'm like, the music didn't happen. It was a fake song. You're talking about being silenced, and you're not even speaking. And then you talk, and people listen. What doesn't make sense?
They doesn't even call her Cat. Doesn't even call him over. No power move. I've got the power. Like nothing.
She literally turns around and she's like, hey, by the way, we should do these things. And he's like,
Okay,
You know what? Yeah.
that works.
The dude with the most terrifying weapon in the room, I'd add.
What?
So he hadn't gotten his sorcerer powers yet. At this point, he'd only been wished to be a sultan. The person with the most terrifying weapon in the entire scene is who listens to her. The person with the most physical power possible there.
Yeah.
Instantly listens.
And then so that was another thing. They changed why he makes a second wish. Because in the original, I actually think it's a more powerful moment in the original where he's like, "Oh look, it made me the sultan, so now you have to bow down to me." And the thing is, in the remake, they're like, "Well, you're just wearing the sultan's clothes. You're not actually the sultan."
Well,
In the original, they imply that they acknowledge, like, "No, you are now the sultan."
well, I actually.
But they say, "But you can't make us bow to you."
Yeah.
Right. We just because you're the sultan, we don't have to respect you or obey you. And so he gets mad and he's like, "Fine, if you're not, I will be a sultan. I will force you." Right. Where were we? Ah, yes, abject humiliation. Right. But in the remake, the guys are like the soldiers are like, "Well, we follow the sultan. He's wearing the sultan clothes, so I guess we follow him now." And then Princess Jasmine's like, "No, I'm a woman. Listen to me." And then the guard is like, "You know what? You got a point. Bye, Jafar." It's like, so the genie's wish didn't do anything other than give him clothes. It was a little weird.
Well, I would say like, so I thought the live action remake actually gave a little more depth to that portion, but it changed something that I thought was kind of key. The original, so the original, obviously, like he's like, "Hey, I want to be the sultan." That's kind of what he's been wanting the whole time. And so now I guess in the original he just wants.
In
the
the
lamp.
original, he just wants power.
the
He actually
lamp.
doesn't
And
even care about the sultan.
You don't even. You honestly don't even know that it's power. He just wants the lamp. Like that's all he cares about. He wants the lamp, and so he gets the lamp. He becomes sultan. Bang, he's got it. And then moments later, he's like, "Wait, I could do more as a sorcerer. Let's be a sorcerer." So he's like, "Bang," and he's like, "Wait, I can do more as a genie. Let's be a genie." And I think the
obsession with power.
Yeah, like that you can kind of take from that there will never be enough power. It's an addiction that he wasn't. He ultimately realized that he's trying to get the power of the sultan this whole time, and he realized, well, that's not enough. I want more. And then he's the most powerful thing out there, like as a sorcerer, and he's like, well, that's not enough. I want more. And he ultimately ends up destroying himself. Whereas in the live action remake, they made it make a little more sense as to why he had to change from the sultan to the sorcerer.
Sure.
Because when he changes to the sultan, you give the little bit of exposition where you get the one guard saying, "I'm going to follow whoever's sultan, regardless of who, like that is my job. I will do that until the day I die." And so when he actually becomes the sultan, that guy goes, "No, you're right. This is my job. I have to follow you." And so it kind of makes sense as the viewer going, "Oh," and the fact that there are just people that exist in the palace in the remake, it gives a little bit more weight to that. You're going, okay, it actually kind of makes sense as to why like he would make that wish. Like there's because in the animated one, it happens so quickly that you're like, what a dumb wish, what a dumb wish, what a dumb wish. And in this one, you're like, okay, he could have gotten away with just being Sultan, but Jasmine speaking to this guard changed everything. And so he becomes a sorcerer, and then same deal, he becomes the genie. And
Can we rip on him now?
oh, dude, let's rip on Jafar.
Freaking Jafar, man, that dude looked. He talks to Alladin because So one thing they changed, so they do dig into his backstory more, and they indicate that he used to be a thief just like Alladin, but he's kind of crawled as and they're I think they're intentionally setting up a parallel where Jafar and Alladin started off the same, and Jafar just went down a dark path where he gets super greedy for power. Enough is not enough. He keeps trying to invade this other country. That was like, but why though? It's like because we could be an empire, and it's like whatever. But in the original, he's just like he wants the lamp because he knows it's super powerful. He's just some evil dude, right? He's not super deep as a character. But in this one, they kind of. I wouldn't say he has no arc. You're wrong. But I found a very compelling article on Reddit about original Jasmine's story arc. So get ready.
A very important note. I think this guy is a fantastic actor put in the worst role for him.
Yeah.
I think he could kill a serious villain in an adult serious, for adults targeted movie.
Right.
I think they put him, they set him up to fail. One, they didn't give him the hair and the beard.
And his
eyebrows don't move.
And going with that, again, they imply like when he talks to Alladin and he shows him like, oh, I used to be a thief like you because he steals something from him, and then that actually does pay dividends later.
Yes.
So I thought that was fine. However, he talks like, oh, I was, you're like me when I was a kid. You look like you're younger than he is.
Yeah.
He's got the J problem. He looks like
100%.
he looks like he's 18.
They didn't do him up. They didn't make him even evil. He just seemed like evil to me, especially when something kids directed is someone who
Right.
You need that little bit of like
A little bombast, a little panache.
He for sure has the
flair.
best villain laugh. I think maybe out of all of the animated, like there's not like because you have yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like it is the equivalent of what you think for an evil, sinister laugh. Like when he gets the lamp when he's coming out of the Cave of Wonders. He's just
he's
like,
manic.
he's cackling the whole time. I mean, he's wild.
He doesn't sound obsessed. In the new one, he just sounds like he's moderately like he just got a promotion at his corporate job.
I mean, if actual Jafar comes and talks to you, it's hello, Jay.
Yes,
If this Jafar comes and talks to you, he's like, hello, Jay. How are you?
You know what the
And you're
Jafar
like,
emotion
that
is?
sounds very pleasant. It's nice to meet you too. Like,
You
sound
know
like a
what the
great
new
guy.
Jafar emotion is?
What?
It's Prince Humperdinck in The Princess Bride, where he's like they're riding and he keeps because he's trying to he paid for his bride to be to get kidnapped and he's trying to set up
I saved you.
Yeah, but the whole time he's riding with his guys and they're finding clues and he's like, if she's dead when I find her, I will be very put off. And he's clearly acting. He's like trying to pretend like he's worried about her, even though he's doing it deliberately. That's the acting. He's like trying to pretend like these are annoying him, but really he doesn't care. I mean, that's what I'm getting. Those are the vibes I'm getting.
His yell when he finally gets all the power and he's about to send the storm over to the other country to start the war. He just goes, oh, like it's like, did they auto-tune that? Like, I don't know. Like, did they just like leave on auto pitch correction when he was yelling?
And contrast that with animated Jafar. Yes, I have the power of the universe in my command.
Yeah.
Just absolute mania. It's just beautiful.
Well, I think it's always, and if we really thought about it, I think it's always the hardest part is to take an animated villain and take them into live action.
Nah, BS.
No, you don't think?
You want to know why?
Why?
Jim Carrey. And there's so
such
many
a good
Jim
response.
Carreys out there, man.
That's such a good response.
There's so many talented, incredible actors that can pull something that beyond animation out straight from film. And there's so many people like that.
Well, okay. Well, I would say it's not impossible. So I agree with you that it's not impossible. I would say that it's like finding somebody to play Aladdin is not as hard as finding somebody to play Jafar. Is kind of the point I'm making.
I know we keep going back to this, but I thought Melissa McCarthy did a pretty good Ursula.
No,
kind of fit the role
this is
fairly well.
this is kind of the point I'm making. I don't think that she did a bad Ursula at all. I just think that original Ursula and most villains are usually the most charismatic, over the top characters. Like Scar is super in your face and his teeth are glaring constantly and he's making these extreme wild emotions, and in the live action you're like, oh, Lion 1, Lion 2, Lion 3. I think he's the bad one. I can't tell. They all look like lions.
And that's not dumb or tropey either. Making a villain ostentatious and obsessive in their emotional caricature is very contingent on the fact that these people are making up for something internal.
Yeah.
It is important that someone who clearly doesn't have it together would act out in an obsessive, terrifying manner that when you look at them, you're like, you have issues. Where is your mother? Like,
And if you want to see examples of that are not in, strictly speaking, kids movies, look at
Kids-targeted movies,
Jinx and Silco from Arcane, I think are excellent examples of really manic villains that work really well.
Right. But like, I guess finishing off my point there is just that because they're typically over the top, zany, manic, charismatic, it's a more difficult, like you have to do a better job casting that person, because although Melissa McCarthy didn't do a bad job, she was still, in my opinion, the furthest from her animated counterpart, because the animated version of her was so just like she's so over the top that when you get a real person to even do a decent job, it's so far. You're like, wow.
Who did a good job as being like the villain that you would imagine them to be was Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort. Oh, I think he did a great job bringing what was in the books to the screen in a way
he's a phenomenal actor.
Can you go ahead and do it? You know what I'm thinking of.
Abracadabra!
Thank you. I needed that.
Harry Potter. Just
Harry
the way he
Potter.
transitioned from the quiet like thing to just a full power, right? That's the kind of thing we're
Yes.
talking about, where you have these huge swings of emotion. It can be done. It just takes a Jim Carrey or someone who
Or
has,
Joaquin Phoenix.
or Joaquin
Yeah.
Phoenix, or someone who can do those really big mood swings and has very good facial expressions and voice control, where you can pick up on that. And I just haven't seen it in the Disney castings.
Yeah, and I agree with you guys. 100% can be done. Like I still stand by my point. I think it's the most difficult person to
for
cast
sure.
out of all of them because
yeah,
I mean, like you're
Okay,
able to do things in animation.
Let's be honest.
too.
The most difficult thing by far to cast was someone to do what Robin Williams did, or even attempt.
Oh,
that.
they shouldn't have attempted that. I'm glad they just went with someone to be like,
Yes.
cool,
Right.
take it. It's
That-
your
that-
new.
that
it's
will-
your
that
thing.
is a
Will Smith
plus.
was Will Smith.
That is
so.
a plus in my category for this movie.
He was him for the last half.
Is that Will Smith was attempting to not be Robin Williams
Yeah.
and being the genie, and I was like, good for you,
What a-
because nothing would have been close. So,
What a fantastic start ending with him explaining his story about how he has a family
actually,
on a boat.
yeah,
I
actually thought that was great.
I was much more emotionally impacted by the live action than I was the animated. And
Yeah.
that's my hot take for this whole thing, is that I cared so much more about the characters in the live action.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've actually had time to fully digest why still.
Mm-hmm.
But when he got freed and got to be human and he had a love interest in going on this boat and then
Yeah.
planning their life together, just all of that clicked so much more in
Yeah.
me.
Well, and I really think it's that middle portion of the movie, the Hitch portion of the movie,
Yeah.
where the four characters who you end up really caring about, Aladdin, Jasmine, Genie, and what was her name?
She fakes that it's her name, Dahlia.
Dahlia. Right? When they're all doing the whole Hitch thing,
Yeah.
and they're acting incredibly human. And
Yes.
you're like, it's that whole part is so relatable.
Yeah.
And
they added work
better. Yeah, full credit. I know this
at that.
this is my hot take. Is
Yeah.
the couple of things they added. This is the first time where I would say that they made some changes that actually enhance the story.
Absolutely.
Not everything, and there were a couple of things that I would say detract. And but I legitimately was like, oh, that was a good addition. So see,
Absolutely.
Disney. I'm not just like, don't change anything ever. Like, no, you just have to be careful about how you do it. You look at it, you say, okay, here's the big story. What changes can we make that flesh that out, that give us more
right.
about what's going on, that give us
and-
more about the characters and the motivations, that humanize them more, that give us more of them. And I thought the middle portion of the movie, the Hitch portion, was great. I loved it.
This all comes full circle to the idea that you are no longer saying where and when is something happening. Now, because they're making it themselves, the why and the what come into the question. And they are now way more understanding of what purpose these scenes serve to make a better film, rather than it was just in the original, so we had to do it.
Well, and lots of times, because of the point I made earlier, where in these original ones, you typically have one person that has, we'll just call it main character arc, and everybody else is kind of just playing a role in the story. All of the new ones try to develop multiple characters, and they did it in this one. They do it in all the other ones. But typically, when you do that, it's really difficult to try to develop another character that didn't necessarily have development in the first place and keep the story the same.
Very.
And I think they did a decent job at that, at saying, okay, we're actually going to give the genie like something to grow from, right?
Yeah.
Like we introduce him at the beginning talking to his kids. That's new. And that kind of comes full circle. You forget about it. And then you realize this is the girl that he meets.
Yeah.
That makes it so much more
You
special.
totally forget.
When,
And you're like,
when he hugs Aladdin
was so
there,
funny.
he's hugging him because you see it's the product of him having a future family. Like it means so much more. And also Will Smith, before he went crazy, like he's an amazing actor. So like that moment where you can feel him almost start to cry before he hugs Aladdin, and it's like super powerful. Like, so his development added in there, it didn't affect the story at all. He still remained to be the guide. I will point out one thing, that in the live action, there was much less rules on like, I'm like, all right, you're doing a lot of things and Aladdin didn't wish you to do them. And they definitely helped
and also,
Aladdin. And I'm like, it's now getting very gray as to what, like, now that he's your friend, couldn't you really just start like now that you have to serve Jafar, couldn't you just be like, all right, Aladdin, you're here. He grabbed the lamp. Oh, shoot. Like, he could have done that, right? Like, who's stopping him? Like, in the original, I liked what you said, where they immediately gave it rules and he essentially stayed within that. Like, even when Aladdin was drowning, he had to it was very
Get to
clear
sign
that
the
he
thing.
broke the rules a little bit. And he's like, I can't do that. But like, you're dead, so I had to do it. Other than that, he's like, I can't do this. Like, I have to obey whatever. Whereas in this one, he's much more buddy-buddy. So I will say that threw a little wrench into it. It didn't bother me too much.
And also, in the original, there's the 3 rules, right? Can't bring anyone, can't kill anyone, can't make anyone fall in love, can't bring anyone back from the dead. He in this one, so in the original, he just says, "I don't like doing it."
Yeah.
Which it kind of implies that he could, he just doesn't want to.
Right.
Yeah.
But the other 2 seem like he's not allowed to kill anyone. He's not allowed to make anyone fall in love.
Yeah.
But in the remake, he never says, "I can't kill anyone."
Yeah,
He
I don't
never
know why
says that.
is.
He only says, "I can't bring anyone back from the dead, and I can't make anyone fall in love." And so Alladin could have been like, "Okay, kill Jafar, bye."
Yeah.
or Jafar could have been like, "Okay, kill all these people."
If that was the only thing that you ever watched, and you didn't know the original, I think that probably would be confusing. I think I probably let the original fill in the gaps there, and that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the characters having development. I think that the added time was to develop Jasmine, was to develop Genie, was to develop Jafar. I think that Jafar's development to be honest, was probably fine, but the fact that he was who he was so terrible that like I didn't care and I didn't want to even be on screen anymore because I'm like, you're just a pleasant man. Get out of here. The original Jafar barely looked human. You never even saw his head. You never saw his head.
It's true.
He might have not even had one. Like you're like, is that part of your body?
Like,
is the hat
when
is
he's
the
dressed
hat
up as
you?
the beggar?
Does the beard meet the hat? And is it just part of like if you chop like you have no idea? Like he's so weak, like he's barely human. And in this one, he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, what's going on?"
I would have
wanna go get
loved.
some
great.
I would have loved for a moment of like when they really want to show him being in shambles at some point. They knock off his hat and the beard goes with it. And he's like, "Ah!" And he's a weak chin too. Like it's like pulled in.
But like, yeah. But I will say, even Jasmine's development, as I mentioned, I don't think it ruined anything. She started off as being, a teen who was unhappy with like the situation she was in, and in this situation she's still a teen who's unhappy in the situation she's in. But there's more of a reason why she's unhappy,
right?
It's because she actually thinks she could do a good job, and that's good. That's fine.
Yeah.
The reasoning wasn't, I've been robbed of this and I want it for me, because that's a villain's reasoning. No, it was, I've actually got plans to help the people. I'm like, there you go. Those are good reasons.
Her big statement. The royalty is only as happy as their saddest subject.
Yeah.
I
good
loved
statement.
that line.
Yeah, and that was good. And so it's like that's how you add depth to a character without derailing the story. Unlike Little Mermaid, where it's like, oh yeah, she drove the ship into Ursula. It's like, but that completely changes the point where she's like, "See, Daddy, humans can sit there and watch us save ourselves."
Right. In the original, like that was the main thing that made Trident go, you saved me. Okay, I guess I can trust humans.
Exactly.
And now it's like, well, we've got to have Ariel do anything, and everybody else is just looking around because she's whatever. That's how you like write poorly written strong women characters as opposed to well-written ones.
The interviews that have been going around about Rachel Zegler being like, it's not 1937. She's not going to be saved by a prince. She's not looking for true love. She's going to become the leader she knows she can be.
This one's going to be rough.
If she's fair and true and brave. Like the Princess of Stalker is like, okay. Those are the changes that people don't like when you say, hey, you know the story you love, the story beat you love? Actually, that story was a bad story. So we're going to change it and we're going to make it a good story. And it's like,
why remake this movie? Okay, make your own movie.
But that's like, okay, I'm making this nice chocolate cake and I like this cake. It's a delicious cake. Maybe it's a little sweet. Maybe it's not great for me, but I like this cake. And you come in and say, chocolate cake is bad. Here, put all this crap in it. You're eating a granola bar now. That's a good thing. And it's like, no, a granola bar is not necessarily a bad thing, but don't tell me I have to instead of making my chocolate cake, I have to make a granola bar. This analogy is going off the rails. The point is, you can make changes.
Am I the
like
cake?
You can be like, well, maybe you should try using dark cocoa instead of light cocoa. Like you can change some things up while keeping the major elements, and you're still at the end of the day, you're still getting the same result. Yeah. Which in this case is the story of Aladdin meeting the genie, meeting Jasmine. That whole overarching story structure is still exactly the same.
Right.
But they've played a little bit. They tweaked tweaked the dials a little bit. Turn some things up, turn some things down.
Can we please make that a thing in Hollywood?
Like, hey, just tweak the nipples just a little bit.
And like, thank God they tweaked the nipples. And
okay,
I mean,
they really tweaked the nipples there.
Oh God, there's this. Okay, total
Nailed
riff.
it.
I have to do this.
Yes.
There was an amazing comedy sketch where he's trying to pitch Avatar 9, and he's like, the details on the areolas, and then the whole cast filming it couldn't keep up with it, and everyone died laughing. And the dude that's like supposed to be saying this line dives into the table because he's supposed to play like this decrepit director that's like in his 80s, falls forward, cracks his head open, like he's trying to explain why they need a higher budget. And he's like, the details on the aerial.
But when you go back and you say, hey, that story you love that has themes that resonate with you, that story is wrong.
Yeah.
That's the things that people hate.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not like if you want to go and tell like this is our interpretation of the Snow White story. It's different, kind of like well, they've done that, like Snow White and the Huntsman, and like this is our interpretation of Sleeping Beauty, and it's Maleficent, right?
Yeah.
And we can judge that on its own merit.
So
but when you're saying no, this is the way we're fixing the story.
Yeah.
That is not okay.
All right, man. I have an idea.
Yeah.
I know what women need.
Yeah.
At
Oh,
the
boy.
end of the movie,
Let's
he
write a song.
does
Sorry.
selfishly use his last wish, but then Jasmine takes it and frees him with all 3 wishes.
Like Nathaniel literally said the same thing, and I was like, that you don't even have to think very hard to figure that out. Actually, like if you were a real person, you'd be like, yeah, let's just do this. Like I'll wish for this, and then I'll hand it to you, and like it seems very.
But we're showing that the women would do it.
So
The men
I mean,
would
so
never.
the
There
in
we
the
go.
lore. Okay, let me take a step back. In the lore, there's a lot of lore about genies, but generally the idea is like once you make your 3rd wish, the lamp goes away.
Yeah.
So like you have to go back and like it disappears to
find
somewhere
it
else. You have to go find it again.
So everybody keeps making 2 wishes.
Yeah, I was about to say. So that's the workaround. So there was actually a no, I cannot remember. I think it was called Bartimaeus.
Have some kids so you can get more
There was
wishes.
this fantasy series that was all about genies.
Yeah.
And you always had to use your 3rd wish to put the genie back in the lamp because genies are like these chaotic, evil creatures, and so if you free them, they're just going to go wreak havoc.
got a great
So you
D&D
always had to
idea.
use your 3rd wish to put it back in the lamp. So all the people who knew about genies were like, you always use your 3rd wish to put it back in the lamp, or bad things happen.
Okay.
Like towns get devastated.
Here,
and so there's like people. They're like, we can't let certain people get the lamps because they don't care about that. They're going to make a 3rd wish, and then the genie gets free because you have to use your 3rd wish to keep the genie constrained. I thought it was pretty cool, but that's a little off topic.
So original to remake here. Story-wise, I felt like they accomplished 2 different things, and I'm happy with both. Story-wise.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I would say that story-wise, it is by far my favorite out of the live actions that I've watched.
Agreed.
By far my favorite. I actually would say that there were points about it that I enjoyed that I couldn't find in the original, which is something I have not said in any of the other ones.
Yes.
Music-wise, there were some really, really bad ones. I didn't hate the few like
Yeah.
the two big genie songs. I thought were still charming enough that I'm like, this is clearly not the original. It's not as good. There are a lot of problems.
Yes.
But the other ones were pretty much disasters. But as far as the story,
A lot
which
of audio sins.
I'm typically more involved in the story portion of it. At least that's where my head is.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was a solid movie. I thought that the things they added didn't take away too much. I don't think it was overall as good as the original. However, I did think that it was a pretty well told story, and I think that the people did a good job.
They would actually recommend it to people. We'd be like,
Yes.
it's worth watching.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I
would
like
say-
it.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, you should watch
yeah,
it.
agreed.
So now, I know we already kind of touched on music, but the new one had some sins. Like it had some egregious failures on the engineer side.
Yeah.
So
let's hear it.
so we were saying this though. The music was so bad in the intro that 20 minutes in, I'm thinking this might be one of the worst ones we watched. And then as soon as we get to Will Smith's part, I was like, oh, I actually really like this.
Yeah.
So it was almost a deal breaker how bad the music was.
Yeah.
I think the engineers were given a job that they didn't want to do, but they did what they were told to do perfectly, which made it so uncanny and creepy. And they lost everything human about
Skynet is online and it's singing.
And it's one of the most human-driven vocal performances in all of the Disney movies. And they ripped it in the complete other direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The most unlikely of singers.
the Street Rat song has one of the biggest gulfs between that one,
Yeah.
Be
And the
Prepared, and Provincial Life. I think so far have had the largest gaps between the original and the remake.
Right. Like you listen to original, Be Prepared. Yeah.
And because for example, in the animated Mulan, it makes perfect sense that she could be able to sing. Like there's so many people that shouldn't really know how to sing in this
Sure.
movie that end up singing, and their uniqueness comes out in it and still sounds beautiful because of who they are. Versus we got like total pitch correct, horrifyingly mutated engineering like disasters of some music.
Well, maybe those engineers can go work on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie and it'll be fantastic.
Perfect. Perfect.
All right, so last thoughts.
Let's wrap it up.
Sounds like we all didn't hate the live action.
No.
No,
Didn't hate
this
it.
is the
Definitely
first
didn't hate
one
it.
where I would say I think it's worth watching once, though, because if I'm going to watch Aladdin again,
Yes.
I'm going to go to the original because as much as they added and as much as I like the things they added, it was 40 to 50 minutes longer. So if I want to just sit down and watch a fun animated, well, obviously if it's animated, if I just want to sit down and watch a fun movie, I'm going to pick original Aladdin because it has Robin Williams and it's only an hour and 20 minutes long. I really do think length is a consideration in these things.
Yes.
But I will say this one is the only one so far that we've watched that is actually, I could say I understand what you did and I think it was good in a lot of ways other than the music.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, J-Man, we loved having you on. I mean,
this is great.
I think that we gotta have him back on for at least the Lady and the Tramp one. I mean, we
Oh,
like
yeah.
Well,
I'd
Emperor
love to
Palpatine
come
apparently.
back on. Yeah.
yeah, man.
This is
No,
the last.
and we had to have you and Liam in the same room so the audience don't think you're the same person.
That'd be great.
But just youthened him a bit and gave him glasses.
Okay, not euthanized. guys.
Oh no.
So Nathaniel, where can the people find us?
Okay, yeah. Let me see if I can get this to work. All
So,
right, hold on. Movie Magic. Wait for it. Boop.
There you go.
All right, so we're on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcasts. Just look Dearly Debated. You'll find us with a microphone with a tuxedo.
Yeah.
We're on YouTube, Dearly Debated. Obviously, if you're not listening, so I've been putting the video versions out on the audio podcast. So if you are on the audio podcast, click the link in the description and it'll take you to the video version and subscribe to our channel. Kitchen Chemist coming back in September. The season 2 trailer will be up within the next couple weeks, obviously before September. That's another place you can find Greg. Greg does actual business stuff. Chapter 1
I actually have a job,
films.biz.
guys.
Jay, you do freelance work? You want
Indeed.
to plug anything?
Yeah. If you like Magic the Gathering and you watch this, go watch Shuffle Up and Play.
You gotta turn
Shuffle up and play.
You gotta turn the
Oh, you're
audio
right. I
thing
do have to
off.
turn the thing off. There it is.
There
Yeah.
you go. Cool. So wait, what are we doing?
It's your pick.
It's my pick.
It's your pick. Well,
Oh,
I mean,
shoot, I
I think it would be Liam's pick, but he's not here, so it's your pick.
Got him.
What would Liam pick? Ghostbusters 2016.
Yeah, that's what we have to. We could do that one, but we got to wait for the live action remake.
Oh my God. All right.
So, do you need your choices?
Yes. Lay out what the rest that we're doing.
Okay, so the rest that we're doing. So there are two that we need to have a talk about,
Yes.
and that's 101 Dalmatians and Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland.
We're debating whether
We're
those
debating
fall
on
in
whether
the
those
same
fall in the category
of
of the deliberate nostalgia bait cash grab that started with Beauty and the Beast or Jungle Book.
No,
Or-
it
I don't-
started with Cinderella.
Cinderella.
technically.
Okay, yeah, Cinderella. So do these fall in the same category, or are they more like the
have-
Maleficent
yeah.
reimagining? Because
Right.
we're not counting Maleficent or Cruella, because those are like reimagining.
We'll keep those
spin-offs.
out for now.
We'll
So
keep those
hit
out
me-
for now.
hit me with the other five.
Pinocchio,
Okay.
Dumbo.
Yeah,
Hold on,
woof.
I'm just gonna put the camera on Jay's face as I actually.
Yeah.
Pinocchio, Dumbo, Lady and the Tramp, yay! But we can't do that one. We gotta wait till Jay gets back. We definitely want to.
I
Definitely
think I
gonna
can
have to-
actually be back next week. Funny enough,
Well,
I think
we-
we're taking a 2-week break from the D&D.
Pinocchio, Lady and the Tramp, Mulan, which I think we should do Mulan last.
Yeah, let's
So I
Yeah.
would like to save that one for last, so
Mulan's
we
gonna
at least end with a
be
really
rough.
good one and a really bad one. So it's
I
kind
have
of it's kind
I
of
have a
perfect
lot of
capstone.
thoughts on Mulan.
Maybe we'll have you back for Jay's going to be a reoccurring guest. Actually,
Yes,
Jay's
he's gonna
great.
he's gonna come back.
Fits right in.
Oh yeah.
Cinderella we haven't done.
Okay, so Cinderella, Pinocchio, Dumbo, Lady and the Tramp, and Mulan. Are those the five?
I think I feel like
Oh wait,
Jungle Book.
Jungle Book. I really want to do another good one, but I feel like we need to
We're
do.
kind of low on good ones.
Yeah, that's why I want to save them. So I want to do either like Dumbo or so. Okay, so we do it every 2 weeks, so it's actually not going to be next week. So it's
That's
going to be the
fine, yeah.
following week.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're either going to do Dumbo, or if it works out for Jay to go 2 weeks and that's more convenient, then we'll get him for Lady and the Tramp, and
Cool.
we'll make
I
Lady
like
and the
that
Tramp 2
idea.
weeks from now.
All right,
So it's either going to be Dumbo or Lady and the Tramp, not because I was a huge fan of either of those as a kid, but because I want to keep some of the better ones for later.
Dumbo's terrifying.
It just sounds terrifying. Like a live action
truly-
version that is not.
I mean, again, we're starting to get into the territory of Disney movies that I'm not fans of the original, so
Yes.
I can't
That's
imagine
exactly
that the
Yes.
live action is going to be much better.
yeah.
Yep.
All right, folks. Well, we will be going live in 2 weeks from now. Same old time, same old place,
Same
8
bad time,
o'clock.
same bad channel.
We will either be doing Dumbo or Lady and the Tramp. So tune in, and we will see you next time.